Hey everyone, welcome to the Monroe Township Zoning Board meeting of April 30th, 2024. Please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Open Public Record Meeting Act, it is hereby announced and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the following: posted on the bulletin board of the office of the township clerk, posted on the bulletin boards within the municipal complex, printed in the Home News Tribune and Cranberry Press on December 29, 2023, posted on the Monroe Township website, and sent to those individuals who have personal requested. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey? Present. Mr. Lupo? Mr. Masters?
No, here.
Mr. Busman?
Here.
Ms. Caratori?
Here.
Mr. Tanzi?
Present.
Mr. Jaffe?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Jadis? Chairman LaFada?
Here. Okay, board members, I need approval for minutes of the regular meeting held March 26th. Do I have an approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Abstentions?
Any,
That was Ms. Caratori.
okay, thank you. Okay, just for those who were here, application BA-5242-23 has been carried to May 28, 2024 meeting. No additional notice is required. It was mentioned at last meeting. Okay, first applicant tonight is BA-5244-23. Sukhminder Kaur. Are you guys here?
Chairman, you want me to check in the hall?
Please do so. Sorry for the delay.
Listen, we got time for them.
Go to the side. Wait till he comes back. Yeah. Ah, we found them. They were loitering in the hallways.
We need to push it, but they're waiting for you.
You guys come on right up front. Take a front row seat here. Please could sit down, relax. They're requesting a bulk variance at 6 Elm Ridge Court. I'm gonna go, you're representing yourself correctly? Individual? I'm gonna go right to Mika, since you don't have any. Oh, well, they didn't give anything.
Yeah. Who's going to be providing testimony tonight out of you guys? Who's going to be testifying?
Myself, I represent the owners.
Okay, so why don't I'll start with you. If I could swear you in, if you could raise your right hand. You swear any testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address.
Satvinder Singh, last name is Singh.
And your address.
2 Elm Ridge Court, Monroe Township, New Jersey.
And if you could raise your right hand, do you swear any testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can slide that one over.
Or either one.
If they're both gonna talk.
All right. If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Sure. Name is Bhaskar Halari. That's Halari.
professional engineer from Concept Engineering, Manalapan, New Jersey.
All right. And will you also be testifying? No. Okay, cool. Perfect.
Okay. Mika, we're gonna jump to you.
So the applicant is seeking a bulk variance to locate a 6-foot tall fence in their front yard. Our ordinance only permits 3-foot fences in the front yard, and that's the reason they're before the board to ask for a variance. The property is developed with a single family. It's about 4.28 acres. It is in a residential area. It's all permitted use. The only variance they need is for the fence.
Paul? You have any comments?
My review letter is dated January 16, 2024. And just to touch on a couple of the comments, you're agreeable to meet with the Township Public Works to coordinate with a lock on the gate so that they'll be able to get access into the drainage easement.
Sure.
And that the property line will be located in the field by a licensed professional land surveyor. Agreeable?
Good.
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
You guys have anything you want to say?
No, that's pretty
No?
straightforward. This,
Good. Do you agree to our professional's comments?
yes,
And you'll comply with everything?
yes.
Mr. Chairman, can we just say, will you comply with the planner letter also of January 17th,
Oh, I said-
2024? Thank you.
Okay, so you comply with the planner and the engineer? Correct. Great. Anyone in the public wishes to be heard on this application? Seeing there's none, I make a motion to close the public portion. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, board members, you heard our professional, residential home, they're looking to put a fence on their property. They're here for an approval. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Busman?
Yes.
Ms. Caratori?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Jaffe?
Yes.
Chairman LaFada?
Yes. You're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have to wait 30 days for memorialization, is that correct? For the fence?
Resolution.
For the resolution, and then after that, you get your permits, you can do what you have to do. Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, next applicant, BA-522-22, Ravishkar Covey? Just so you guys know, whoever's speaking, please use the mic so everything's recorded. Thank you.
Council, you started this, I think, in November of like 2022 or something. I think for the purposes of this application, it'd probably be best to just start over. I'm not sure who was here or not here.
Yeah, we're planning on starting over.
Okay.
Different professional
Yep.
people.
Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Floor's all yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Renshaw. I'm representing the applicant tonight.
Council.
Quick about it. It's valuable. We have 4 witnesses tonight. I have the applicant, I have the professional engineer, I have an architect, and a professional planner that will be providing testimony. Hopefully the testimony is short, sweet, and concise, and we can get all the answers that the board needs to make their evaluation. So if you could, actually first, you received the affidavit of publication and everything?
We received your affidavit of publication and mailing, and everything's in order. The board does have jurisdiction.
Thank you.
You got it.
So I'd like to start with the homeowner to begin with.
Absolutely. If you could raise your right hand, sir, and speak into the microphone, please. Do you swear any testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Ravishankar Kovi, Kovi,
Perfect. Thank you, sir. And your address?
43 Keswick Circle, Monroe, New Jersey.
Perfect.
Robbie, you're the owner of that property?
Yes.
How about we shift that mic closer to you, and you could shift that one closer to you, so we're all live.
And how long have you owned that property?
Since 2006.
And who resides at that property with you?
Me, my wife, daughter and son, and one mother.
Okay. And your mother-in-law resides with you?
Mother-in-law, yes.
Okay. And we came in before with the board because we had a project going. Could you explain what your project entailed, what you proposed?
Yeah, so I was planning to,
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Yeah, you just tilt that down a little bit. Don't be shy. When no one's gonna bite you. Good. We need to hear, and it needs to be recorded.
yeah, so I was seeking for the extension of my existing house to accommodate bathroom for my kids because it was built 20 years back and then there was no enough room for them to accommodate the bathrooms. And also for my aged parents, we wanted to have the bedroom on the first floor. Right now, all the bedrooms are on the second floor. The steps are becoming a challenge for her. And also, we as a parents are like more than 50 years old now. So we are also looking at our future, how we can manage staying on the first floor rather than going to the second floor. So that was the intention.
And as part of this intended renovation of the property, you also intended to renovate the rear yard area, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So
And what was to encompass that renovation?
yeah, it was like an in-ground swimming pool and a pool house adjacent to that. So that was the for the physical activity for us. So prior coming to the bulk variance, we approached the contractor and then asked for the swimming pool and the pool house, and then they gave me the designs, and then everything was looking okay. So we said, okay, we'll go ahead and build that, and that was constructed, and then we got the permit for the pool house, and then the swimming pool is about to get the permit approval. Sorry.
So based on those plans that the contractor developed, you were all within the requirements of the zone, correct?
Yes, originally, yes. There was, post construction, I think I heard from the survey that there was a slight increase in the existing swimming pool and pool house square footage, the patio section. And I didn't know until I actually was built, and then they did a survey, and then they told me that this is what it is. That's why we are asking to add that into this variance.
Okay. Do we have any, if you want to add anything?
No.
Questions? Just using it for background.
You're done with your testimony. Mika, take the floor.
Mr. Covey, just to confirm, you had zoning permit approvals for the pool and the pool house, also the patio area, or you did not?
Yeah, it was part of.
Okay, because those designs and details haven't been provided with this plan, so we are assuming that all that was approved and
Yes.
is part of the zoning permit. Thank you. In terms of the addition, our review of the property is that you're looking to add a new guest bedroom with a bathroom in the first story, and the second story is just going to have additional square footage for the existing bedrooms. You're not increasing the number of bedrooms on the second story. Is that right?
Correct.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Mark?
At this time, I'll just mention the permits. You said you had the permits for the pool, the spa, the fire pits. They're still open. They haven't been closed out yet with the construction.
Yes.
And I believe there's one also for the outdoor kitchen that's still open.
Yes.
And a heated surface
Yes.
for
It's all
snow.
part of the same permit. So we are trying to close that one, but the electrician is the last one which is pending, so that will be closed very soon.
So is the snow melting pad, has that been installed yet?
It is laid.
It's what?
It's laid already.
It's
The
laid, okay.
Heating
'Cause-
pad is in there.
Is that one you don't have a permit for, so you have to get the permit issued for that?
Yeah, we talked to George, and I think electrician talked to him, and then based on their discussions, we had laid down, but it was not connected. It was not being used.
Right.
So he asked us to provide some further details. So we are providing that details now.
Okay. All right. At this point, I have nothing more.
Okay. Anyone from the board have any questions? Okay, we're gonna go to the public. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard or speak on behalf of this applicant or have any objections to this applicant? Seeing that,
Chairman,
yeah,
I was anticipating testimony on engineering items and review letters. I believe he said he had 3 witnesses. Not to cut you off.
okay. I asked if there was any more testimony. He said no, so that's why I went to meet him.
This guy.
Oh, no.
This guy.
Oh,
Got 3 minutes.
sorry.
Jumped ahead.
I
Take
just
it all
thought,
back.
I thought you've changed your style and you're letting us, so I just could ask my questions.
Should have let it go. No. Okay, so if we're done with him, that's okay. Bring up your next witness if you have, please.
Rob?
If you could raise your right hand for me. Do you swear any testimony you can provide is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Robert Siv, S-I-V as in Victor E, 100 Reich Drive from Crest Engineering in Millstone. Licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I have over, about 28 years experience now, a graduate of New Jersey Institute of Technology. Testified before this board. It's been a while, but I have testified before this board as well as numerous boards throughout New Jersey.
We will accept your credentials as a professional. Counsel?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob, you want to provide a little background of the board of what's existing currently on the site?
Sure. So I do have an exhibit.
Sure.
This mic's going to. And I believe these are already marked in as exhibits as part of the original submission. One of them is doctored a little bit. The first one, right there.
Yeah, why don't we re-identify them as A1, A2?
A1, I believe, is the plan that was prepared by Thomas W. Scrabble that the original pool house, patio, and whatnot was submitted for and approved upon.
Okay.
And then the
Okay,
second-
until you pass them all out and sit down, because you need to speak with a microphone. We have to make sure it's recorded. Walking around in midair, it's just not cutting it.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah. What was it called, this mic up there? Is it on? See if it's on. Just give it a quick tap. Oh, hold the button until the light goes on or something.
All right,
I
so
can walk around. We got a mic.
sorry.
Which one do you want to use?
I'll use this one. That's fine. So the first exhibit is what, like I said, what I believe is the plot plan that was used to get the pool, patio, pool house permit and construction permits. It was the plot plan done by Thomas W. Scrabble, last dated July 21st, 2021, last revised September 26th, 2022. And then the second item or plan passed around was basically a copy of my pool or my plot plan or the variance plan. And there's a yellow highlighted, what I'll call inverted L. And I'll describe that in a minute. But this plan is my variance plan with that area highlighted in yellow. So now that we have the exhibits passed out, just real quick, the site is identified as Block 62, Tax Lot 6, and is more commonly known as 63 Keswick Circle. The site is situated within the residential R25 zone, has an area of approximately 20,000 square feet, and is developed with a 2-story single-family residential dwelling, driveway, and other ancillary structures and utilities typical of a residential developed property. As you heard from Mr. Covey, he obtained a permit and recently constructed an in-ground swimming pool, pool house with pergola, associated patio area, and 2 dry wells within the rear yard area to mitigate stormwater runoff from those improvements. Those improvements were to have increased the overall property's impervious coverage to just under 40%, which is the zone limit. Now, as you heard from Mr. Covey, as part of those improvements, an additional 292 square feet of patio area was constructed, and that increases the impervious coverage to approximately 41.5%. So that kicks him over the 40%. That second exhibit, which I believe is A2, The yellow area is where he increased the patio surface area above and beyond what was on the original Scrabble plan. So you can see they kind of went one extra course past the end of the pool with the patio, and that cost that 292 square foot overage, which he's now at 41.5% for. So that's why we're here tonight, is for the impervious coverage variance. He's also proposing a 666 square foot addition to the rear of the house that he described. That will increase the impervious coverage to 44.5%. And we are proposing a third dry well in the front yard, which will collect the roof runoff from that addition, pipe it to the dry well in the front yard, and mitigate stormwater runoff from that roof area in that fashion. And then the second variance that we're here tonight for is a fence height. 6-foot fence is permitted in the rear yard area of a residential property. A fence was installed along the sides and rear property line from about the front of the house back. It starts off at about 5 feet in height at the front of the house. And then as you travel towards the rear of the property, the fence height increases to a total height of about 7.5 feet along the back of the property. And then as you come back around the other side, it reduces back down to about 5 feet on the other side. So those are the two variances. We're here tonight. The planner will get into more of the variance testimony for those variances. I know, Mark, you mentioned that you want to hear some testimony as it relates to your engineering review letter. So unless there's any questions from the board as it relates to what's proposed and what we're here for tonight, I can jump right into Mark's letter.
Just really quick, on the fence, it was done that way because of the topography of the property?
Right, so the property slopes from the back of the house to the rear property line, sloping down. So what the homeowner did, or the contractor did as part of the construction, was he built a little, about 1.5 to 2 foot wall as the property sloped down to kind of keep the property level, and then put the fence on top of the wall, which is now creating the higher fence height. And again, like I said, the planner has some pictures, I believe, and we'll get into a little more testimony on that.
Mr. Siv, I don't know if you mentioned the third variance on the accessory use percentage.
I think that's part of the impervious coverage variance, that there's two prongs to that, the overall property coverage and then the coverage within the rear yard.
Yeah,
Yes.
but there are two different variances.
Yes,
So.
yes, acknowledged. So I have Mr. Razumowitz' letter from April 10th, 2024. Mr. Razumowitz was nice enough to meet me on the property, I believe it was last year at this point. So we've worked through most of the technical engineering items. I have no problem going through them item by item if that's the board's pleasure, or if there's anything in particular, Mark, you want me to hit on, I can do that as well. Whatever's...
Well, I mean, why don't we just run through them? They're short.
Sure. Okay. So item number 1, without reading it, is basically a summary of what we just described, describing the property and the addition. Item number 2 indicates that variances are required. We talked about the variances, and I'll add the application number on the title block, not a problem, and get you a copy of the survey, which I believe was submitted, but I can get another copy, obviously, not a problem. Item E on the top of the next page is all existing and proposed drainage pipes for the site shall be connected to the seepage pits. The plan shall be revised accordingly. We can show those pipes. They are connected, and we will add that to our plan. Item F, the grading plan shall be provided to demonstrate stormwater flow and the grading for the proposed steps. The plan that was submitted had grades on it. We can add additional spot grades around the steps. That's not a problem.
Okay.
The dry well detail shall be revised to show the true elevations in addition to the proposed inlet grates and seasonal high water table. 2 separate details should be provided for each dry well. I have no problem. And it was only one dry well proposed. The other one was already constructed as part of the pool plan. The one in the rear yard is already constructed. I can add that detail for you for the front dry well and add elevations, not a problem.
And we'd like to see what elevations are on the back as well. I don't believe there was grade elevations or any indication on the plan.
There is no grates. As we met in the field, we agreed to install grates on top of those dry wells, and we're just setting them at the elevation of the existing ground. And
Right, so you'll show those grades?
yes,
The
yes.
existing grade.
The-
You'll show the existing grade in that area
Yes,
where you're going to
yes,
set those
yes,
grades?
Yes.
Yes.
H is the cleanout located in the rear yard for sanitary to storm, or I guess that's or storm. That is a sanitary cleanout. That was part of the approval for the pool house to provide sewer to the pool house from the front lateral into the back of the house.
So where does that go? Is that going to be now under the addition? Does that go around the house out to the front?
It goes around the westerly side property line down to the front under the driveway and connects into the existing clean out where it's labeled on my plan proposed sanitary sewer line. That is existing now. It was proposed at the time the surveyor did the work. It's now existing. And like I said, it was constructed as part of that pool house.
So if you can show that line on the, on the final set of plans. where
Not a
it's going.
problem.
Thank you.
Not a problem. I is the backwash line for the pool shall be displayed on the plans. Again, not a problem. We'll show that it is connected to the seepage pit, and we will show that line. J is the sanitary line in the front yard is labeled as proposed. Is there sanitary work being performed? Again, it was proposed at the time the surveyor did the work and prepared his plan. It is now existing, and we'll label it as such.
Okay. And what is that line for?
That's the line that connects to that clean out behind the pool house that provides sanitary sewer to the pool house.
So it's shown going directly to the front of the house.
Right, so it comes around that westerly property line, cuts under the driveway, and goes to the existing clean out in front of the house.
Well, you're showing two. That's the confusion. You got one going around the side, and then you got the one going straight into the house.
Right, so there's
that's
one
the-
that serves the house, the primary residence, and there's a second line that serves the pool house, correct?
Okay. You're not changing the existing.
Correct. Correct. So I guess that answers your K
Yes.
question. There's two laterals, correct. L is invert shall be provided for the drainage system throughout the site for all structures and connections, and we can provide that for the proposed system. That's not a problem.
Mhm.
And then we will prepare an O&M manual as part of the approval or condition of approval, which is letter M, and that's not a problem.
Right, and that'll be recorded with the deed.
Yeah, we'll do a deed notice.
Chairman, I don't have anything else.
I do have a quick question. What is completed on this property already?
So it's all the backyard.
It's all
infrastructure.
completed?
Yes.
Except for
The
the addition.
pool, the fence?
The fence, the pavilion, the patio, that's all completed. It
So
may be
did we not do this in reverse?
No, because originally how it was supposed to work out was that wasn't going to require any variance. That was just permit construction department. When they started working on the addition, which everyone knew would be requiring variance relief, that's when it was found that the patio section was actually that 292 square feet overbuilt. That last course was added in by the contractor. So we rolled all that in together.
What else additionally has to be done?
So with the backyard.
Other than hooking up the electric for the heat deck?
Yeah, other than what Mark said in the beginning to close out the permits, nothing else has to be done. It's all constructed already. Fence is up, the patio's in, the pool's in, the pavilion's in, all that's in.
The addition is also done?
No, the addition's not done.
Yeah.
The addition's separate. I thought we were just talking rear yard.
Okay.
So, Vinny, is the fence done?
The fence is done. The fence had to be done for the pool.
And the fence violates our ordinances.
Yes.
When was that done?
That was done sometime before we came to the board for the addition, and it was determined that it violated the ordinance at that point.
Just like the patio.
Yes, because the as-built survey was done and the actual square footage of the patio was discovered.
And that was a builder mistake?
Yeah, I think the builder was trying to be nice and he kind of took off a corner, like made it straight.
And the fence was a builder mistake too?
The builder was
Trying to be nice?
trying to make it look nice because of the way the property slopes off, the fence actually blocks the pool area from the neighbor now. So the neighbor's not looking into the pool area. If you lower the fence, the neighbor's going to be like,
No, I got it. I have a
Eye
pool,
level. That's
and
the
my
only
neighbor
reason
looks
it was
right into
done.
my backyard because I have a 6-foot fence.
yeah. I mean, if it's, talk to the client, if it's the board's prerogative not to offer a variance on that, then the fence has to be reduced to 6 feet.
Our ordinance are published, right?
Online.
Oh, okay.
So you were doing the extension, but we did the yard first, and then when we got to the extension, we found out everything in the yard didn't comply, or wasn't.
Well, not everything in the yard didn't
Okay,
comply.
it didn't meet all the requirements.
Yeah, the two things were the fence and the square footage on the patio.
That was only triggered when we were going to proceed with the extension of the
Extension
home.
because they needed the as-built to create the plans for the extension, because it was never anyone's intention to actually be before the board for that back patio stuff. When those plans, when Thomas Scrabble originally did those plans, they were all set up to be compliant.
So as a regular
So they didn't-
layman, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So if I'm going to do my yard, if I'm going to do an extension, I'm going to do my extension first to make sure what I'm going to do in my yard is going to fit. Instead of do my yard, now I'm going to be on top of my house, or my house has to be altered because I wanted to do my yard first.
I understand that. I wasn't involved when this
No, I
process
understand. Well, that's why
came.
we're here.
Yeah.
We're asking questions. Any other board member have questions pertaining to
I have
professional?
one.
Please.
If I'm understanding this correctly, the builder did this without the owner's approval?
I don't think it was done with that. You can debate that one. I think the builder did it not knowing what the parameters were, didn't follow the plans.
So the builder didn't follow the plans?
Yeah, basically. And the owner handed them the plans, but the builder didn't follow them. So it wasn't a matter of, I approve of this.
And there was no additional charge for this?
I'm not aware of any.
Kelly?
Can you describe a little bit about what's in that, in the building next to the pool? That seems to be a large building. Are there any bedrooms or anything else in there?
Like pool cabana. It's kind of like,
There's
there's
bathrooms?
a bathroom in there, a seating area, stuff like that.
It looks large enough to have additional living space. I mean,
Correct.
I'm going back to Mika's question about, how many bedrooms does this house have?
It doesn't have living space.
Any other questions?
Does it have a full bathroom
There is a bathroom. That was the lateral sewer line that runs out there.
and a shower?
Wait, what is it? It's a full bathroom.
Shower.
Shower.
So it is living space. You could put a bed in there and make it, right?
Well, it's a pool house. It,
pool house
doesn't have a
that-
kitchen. It doesn't have, the things that make a bedroom.
Any other board member have questions before we move to the next?
Mr. Chairman, I have a technical question. Mr. Savi, in terms of impervious coverage calculation, I think one of the questions in planning memo dated April 23rd, 2024 was, did you include the planters that are shown on the side of the lot as impervious coverage?
I did not include the planters. They are concrete, open blocked rectangles filled with topsoil in the middle for the plantings.
So they don't have
An
a
open bottom.
base?
Correct.
It's a raised garden bed.
It's basically a raised garden.
Okay. So maybe then the labeling, it shouldn't be planters because that's what throws you off. If it says planters, you imagine it to be a impervious area. The other question, again, going back to the pool house question, I believe that was via permit. Do we have the height of the pool house, or that was?
I have the architectural plans, I believe, that were submitted for that, and it shows it at about 11-foot height.
Okay, thank you. I would just recommend whatever board decides if a copy of those pool house and pool plans be submitted to the planning division.
The applicant actually received a CO for the pool house.
Yeah, but we don't have the drawings of the pool house and it's something for the planning division to keep on their file.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Boatman.
For the record, I want to make sure that this pool house will not be used as a residence, and it will not be occupied by any people except perhaps an animal. Thank
Bring
you.
the owner back up.
Make sure you use the microphone, please.
You heard the question, right?
Yeah, I had.
You got to turn that on.
That's okay. Is it on? Should be on if you didn't turn it on.
No one will occupy that space. Right now it's used for pool house activity only. It's for, there's a small gym equipment there so they can work, and then, so there's no house actually there. Nobody is going to reside there.
Thank you.
Council, I have one other question before we move on. I'm assuming previously Mr. Scrabble designed these plans?
Yes.
And he's licensed?
Yes.
And in it, it shows everything but, I guess, the raising of the fence in the back. Is that where you're?
Yes, because I think the fence was put in, and I'm not 100% sure, I think it was put in post plans. I think it went in after the pool went in.
Okay, so if we minus the fence, let's say that doesn't exist, adding the extension, if I'm not mistaken, there was testimony that we're going to 44%, and it was 41%. It went to 41 with the fence. So if we remove the fence, we're just below 4.
Well, can I?
Sure.
It didn't go with the fence, it went with the patio. The patio pavers brought it up, that 292 square feet, that extra.
Then he elevated it up.
The fence is a separate issue from 6 feet to a max of 7.5. So it's 1.5 feet over in certain areas of.
Okay, so if we didn't go that extra block, doing the extension, would it have gone over the 40%?
Yeah. On the patio, it wouldn't have.
But the extent, you're asking about the house
The
extension.
house extension.
The house extension would have gone over because that was the whole plan, the whole operation
Okay,
was
so-
always had to come here for the house extension for full
Gotcha.
relief.
So let's remove the fence. It doesn't exist. You still needed to come here for the extension, correct?
Yes,
It would have exceeded the impervious coverage lot area.
that is correct.
So how come we never made it here for that, and now we're coming for that and the fence?
Because that was never built, and what happened was originally when Scrabble's plans were done, they were made so there was no variance relief required. There was no reason to come to the board. When he came in, knowing that he had to come in for the extension, that's when we discovered that A, you're over the size and the fence is too big, so too tall. So that had to be added in for the anticipated addition. The game plan when this whole thing started was just coming for the house addition. It was those two errors that created the existing stuff to have to be included.
Does this pool house have air conditioning or heat?
Believe it has air conditioning. Yes.
Is it a split system, a central system? Central system? So I'm going to assume it has a heat pump?
I remember it's a electrical heater and
Sorry.
technically I'm not too sure, but it is a electrical panel which is used. It's dedicated for the pool house.
Does this property have a generator?
No, we don't have.
Yes.
I just want to be clear. So when this pool was built, there was always the intention to also build the addition. Is that correct?
Later.
Later.
The addition was coming after the fact.
Yet the pool was being built to a lot coverage that was going to be within inches of being over the permitted limit. So there was always the knowledge that to do both of these, you were going to need variances and you were going to violate the variance, the lot coverage requirement.
Yeah, that's correct. It was
So the
always
pool was-
intended to come in to the board for that.
So the
variance.
pool was more important than the house addition because that came first.
No, I don't think that's fair. I think there could be a lot of different reasons for it to come first. It could have been timing on construction. It could have been finances. There's a lot of other things other than, it came first. So that's the most important.
Well, not first, but the size of the pool was more important then, correct? Because you could have shortened the pool up and we wouldn't be here right now, correct?
You'd have to I could take out the block too, and they wouldn't be there for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
So we can take out the block if that's the board's prerogative.
Well, 4%, not just the 1%.
Shorten the
Taking
fence,
out the
remove
290.
patio.
We're not there yet. We're still asking. We're in the question session. Any other board members have any questions? Seeing there's none, do you have another witness?
Yes. The architect. Planner's at the end.
Please, let's remember to use the microphones. Okay? Thanks.
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
My name is Haikekshian. My last name is spelled Ekshian. My address is 42 Maple Street, Summit, New Jersey.
Don't be shy. Speak right up. We're all friends here. Just talk loud, all right?
I'm a
We need the
licensed
people in the back to hear you.
I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I'm the owner of Space and Mark Architecture, graduated from New Jersey Institute of Technology in 2008, and I've completed hundreds of houses throughout New Jersey. I think I testified in front of this board.
We'll accept your credentials as a professional.
I'd like to walk you through our plans to.
Sure, if you're gonna get up, use that cordless mic, make sure it's on, tap it first.
Here you go.
Talk loud and clear into it, please.
We're starting with the basement plan here, and
If you could just refer to the plans by sheet as you.
okay, this is sheet number A1, the basement floor plan. Here you can clearly see the extent of the addition, which is shown in these dark, thick lines, which is the foundation. And the dashed lines that you're seeing is the existing house. It's an unfinished basement, and the addition will have an unfinished basement that's flush with the existing basement area. And we're proposing the addition to make the house a little larger. It's about.
What sheet are we on? What sheet?
Sheet A2.
Thank you.
This is the first floor plan. And we want to add more living space to the house, and we're essentially pushing the house about 10.5 feet towards the rear yard. By doing so, we're adding, on the first floor, adding a guest bedroom and a bathroom, enlarging the kitchen, and adding a sunroom behind the existing family room. The rest of the changes here are minor modifications to the existing powder room, which becomes a bathroom, adding a closet. So essentially the front of the house is mostly staying the same. This is sheet A3, second floor plan. And here there are 2 bedrooms on the second floor at this area already. We're extending it towards the back in order to make them a little larger and add bathrooms for each of these bedrooms. There's currently an existing primary bedroom and an unfinished attic space, and we're proposing to take that existing attic space and turn that into a walk-in closet, and also extend the current primary bathroom towards the back, making it a little larger. And then in the front, we're converting one of the bedrooms to a puja room, and that's the extent of the changes on the second floor plan. On page A4, you can find the elevations. We don't have the front elevation here because there isn't any changes being made to the front. Majority of the addition is towards the back of the house. The right side of the house that we're adding the sunroom is a single-story addition, whereas where we are adding the kitchen, enlarging the kitchen and the guest bedroom, is a double-story addition with the bedrooms on top. And we're proposing a balcony off of these 2 bedrooms on the second floor. So that's the extent of our work. I'll take your questions regarding that.
Mika?
Regarding the basement, I believe the testimony is the addition is going to remain unfinished and the rest of the existing basement is finished basement. Is that correct?
We have it shown as both unfinished. Okay. Yes, the back part will be unfinished, and the front part is going to remain as is.
So if I may ask, why is the basement addition being proposed?
It is the foundation of the addition above.
Okay.
We have to have these foundation walls to hold up the house.
Okay.
Either it would be a crawl space, or we would dig down a few more feet and line with the existing floor and have it used as storage. Doesn't necessarily have to be finished.
Right. If you've heard the general tone of the board today, the concern is the entire size of the building and the addition. Today, as it's being proposed, I understand for the foundations you need that addition, but as you rightly said, you could also do that as a crawl space and just close off that basement. So even today, when you're testifying that it will be unfinished basement, it getting converted into a finished basement and a larger space is nothing's going to prohibit that. But if instead just a crawl space is proposed or just the foundation columns are proposed, the basement addition is taken off the discussion.
Okay. So just keep in mind that the basement is underground. It's not visible to anybody. It is an additional storage space and it would be achieved by a minimal expense by just digging a little more, because all this work has to be done to be able to build the addition. But if it is
Understood, but the concern is also there is a pool house that could be easily be converted into a living space. You are now having 3 bedrooms above with individual bathrooms and a walk-in, master bathroom with walk-in closet and jacuzzi. To alleviate the board's concerns that you've heard today, would that be something that can be achieved?
Just spoke to the applicant.
so.
It's board prerogative for a crawl space, and crawl space goes in.
So that becomes a non-habitable, non-usable area altogether. Thank you. The other question is the building height. I know testimony was provided regarding the second story and that the attic space is being converted into a walk-in closet and a bathroom or something to that effect. From architectural point of view, I know it's in the rear, but is the building height changing?
No, it's not.
Okay.
The building.
So it's still going to remain within the permitted ordinance requirement of
Yes.
32?
We're not going any higher than the building. Actually, the roof line is staying. Here's the additional roof, the roof we're adding, which is much lower than the existing.
Okay. That's about it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mark, do you have any comments?
No, that's pretty hard.
None? You have any more witnesses, counsel?
One more, planner. Promise, last witness.
Okay. We have all night.
Good evening. If you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Allison Coffin, Coffin, 14 Tilton Drive, Ocean Township, New Jersey. I work for James W. Higgins Associates. I'm a licensed professional planner in the
We'll
state of New
accept your
Jersey.
credentials. I
Thank you
think
very
you've been
much.
before this board before.
Thank you. Before I begin, our engineer said that I had photos, and I did take photos. I left them on my desk. So, Mr. Vigneault, can I show? Oh, they're here.
That is magic.
It's a miracle.
Yes, you can have Mr. Lenzler hand them out if you want. It's fine if that's what you want to have happen. That's
Thank you very
perfectly
much.
okay.
I was going to ask if I could show them on my iPad without having my iPad taken for evidence, but this works much
I really
better.
needed an iPad, so I mean, I was really banking on you having to put it in. So
If you want it, I'll get a new one. See if the boss will do that.
right.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it right here.
So before I dive in,
Okay, here we go. All right.
got some photos that I took. It's been a while.
4, 5, 6, 7. So
Back in
exhibit A3
September.
is a 7-page photo exhibit?
Yes.
Perfect.
These are photos of what the fence looks like. I visited the site in September, walked around. So you can see it is a wood look fence. It is not wood. I believe it is a metal material that is painted to look like wood. So it's not as simple as taking a couple slats off to reduce the height. There is one photo that does show you a little bit of that pool cabana that we've been talking about. So you can see that it is a lot of glass windows. This is not going to be a comfortable accessory dwelling unit. It'd be high visibility. And it is not the applicant's intent to use it as an accessory dwelling unit. It has a gym space, a sauna, a steam room, a shower. It is my dream. But it is not an accessory dwelling unit. And again, the rest of the photos just give the board a sense of what that fence looks like and the sort of privacy it provides. Oh, there is one last photo that shows you a view of the existing rear wall of the house and how it lines up to the neighbors. So you can see that the neighbor's house comes out further than this house. So the addition that's proposed would not come further into the rear yard than the neighbor. So to back up, the property that we're looking at is a 20,000 square foot lot. It's developed with a single family home. It has at present a rear yard pool, patio, and pool cabana with open permits. The applicant is requesting the board's permission to renovate the home by constructing an addition to the rear and to also approve the site improvements that have been constructed and permitted, but built outside their permits, including the pool, the patio, and the pool cabana. For the purposes of reviewing the variance, I assumed that this was a clean situation and treated it as though the board was seeing something that has not been built. The site is located in the R20 zone, which permits detached single-family dwellings. The variance relief that the applicant is requesting is for lot coverage of 44.5% where 40% is permitted, and for a fence height that in some places goes up to 7.5 feet, where 6 feet is the maximum. The variance relief that the applicant's requesting is bulk or C variances, and there are two tests within the municipal land use law for this type of variance. The first is commonly known as a hardship variance, and is appropriate when a lot's unique shape, topographic condition, or the result of pre-existing legal structures create a situation where the strict application of the ordinance results in undue hardship. The second standard is known as the flexible C standard. This is the C2 standard, and it's justified when the variances advance the purposes of the municipal land use law and the benefits of the variances substantially outweigh any detriments. It's my opinion that the variances the applicant is requesting can be granted under that C2 standard. The variance here advances the purposes of the municipal land use law with regard to purpose G, which is to provide sufficient space in an appropriate location for a variety of uses, including residential and recreation uses, according to their respective environmental requirements and in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. This applicant is requesting to provide appropriate space in an appropriate location for a reasonable addition to their single-family house, to provide a ground floor dwelling unit to age in place, not dwelling unit, a ground floor bedroom to age in place and increase the bedroom sizes for their children, and also have what is an appropriate and permitted type of use in the rear yard, which is the pool and the cabana. The benefit of the variance being requested is the advancement of this purpose of the municipal land use law and permitting a resident to have an appropriate use and enjoyment of their own property, creating an addition which allows them again to accommodate aging family members and then later have themselves age in place with that ground floor bedroom and have an appropriate recreational features in their rear yard, which with appropriate privacy screening from their neighbors. There is, in my opinion, no significant detriments that result from the variances that are proposed. The proposed addition and the rear yard structures are not visible to the public, so there's no visual impact that results from these variances. The main impact that could result from excess lot coverage would be from stormwater runoff, and the applicant has proposed measures to mitigate the potential stormwater that would result from the extra impervious surface, so there's no detriment there. And the fence height here is the result of the sloping grade of the property and the applicant's desire to provide a privacy screen from the rear that is effective despite the grade change. In my opinion, there's no detriment to these variances, and therefore the benefits would outweigh the detriments. The variances also will not impair the intent and purpose of your master plan or your development ordinance. The use and the types of structures are permitted and appropriate. The lot can reasonably accommodate the amount of coverage that's being requested, and the fence itself is visually attractive, and the additional height doesn't create a substantial detriment to the neighbors. So for those reasons, it's my opinion that positive reasons exist for the granting of the variances. They can be granted without detriment to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public, and they would result in an improvement in use of the site, which is consistent with the overall intent of your master plan and development ordinance.
Is it?
That's it.
Mika, do you have any comments?
I do. 1 second. All right. So my first question is, thank you for the pictures of the fence. Do we have an aerial picture of the site to kind of show the coverage of the lot? I think it's there on the site. plan that's shown. So I just want to bring attention for the board members to look on the cover page or the first page of the plot plan that has been provided. On the right, the key map that shows the site and the current aerial picture.
It does appear to not show the grass. I'm sure that was before the grass was either sodded or grew.
Okay.
So everything that's brown is now grass lawn.
So everything that's light brown is grass, and the center white is all the impervious coverage. So going back to, I believe the argument about C2 criteria and the positive criteria to provide sufficient space, just bringing that item G up again, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for variety of residential use to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. I'm sure you've heard the board members' concern and, the addition, the patio, the pool house, and the pool is resulting in impervious coverage of about 44.5%, which is much higher than the impervious coverage that's permitted in the zone. Clearly, the aerial map, even if we consider the light brown as green, reflects what the neighborhood has and what this alone site is bringing to this property. It's almost, for lack of better word, it's 60% of site is covered with something built on the property.
No, 44.5% is covered.
Yeah, but I mean, if you are looking just with the lot area and rule of thumb making it's coming across as that.
Yeah, but
But it is 44.5%.
All right.
Can I also point out too on that aerial,
Mm-hmm.
you got two other properties that are similar.
Again, that's I'm making my questions. That can be your testimony, and that wasn't brought up before. Just saying. Going back to, having said that, and the zoning intent, clearly the impervious coverage, there was a requirement. There's another requirement in Monroe Township Land Use Ordinance regarding the coverage of the rear yard by accessory uses, which is 25%, which is again exceeded by this applicant. How would we still justify that, this is an appropriate space that is being allowed when the applicant is clearly exceeding what the zoning ordinance wanted or the intent of the ordinance was? And how is it that by negating that, we are still not impacting the surrounding neighborhood or the zoning intent of the plan? We're not meeting what ultimately the zoning ordinance was trying to prove. And I understand the argument that the stormwater is being met, but from a planner perspective, stormwater are technical instruments that the engineers do find a solution for. I mean, we all know in this today's world, they are able to, and I don't know too much. Mark, please correct me. I mean, dry wells can be put in, pipes can be connected, and the stormwater can be handled. But given the situation that it is today and the impervious coverage being a concern, how are we still meeting the zoning intent by allowing this for this applicant?
Well, the intent of an impervious coverage limit is to limit stormwater runoff. And if the applicant is meeting, can mitigate that impact, then the intent of the ordinance is still being met, despite the coverage being a little bit larger. I don't think it's much larger, but because we are dealing with the impact that the ordinance intends to control, there is no negative impact to the ordinance by having the extra coverage in this case.
So then why would there be impervious coverage if stormwater can every time be solved?
Because you do need to show that you can solve it, because it can't be solved every time.
I beg to differ. I think it can be solved every time. And that's why there has been a blanket impervious coverage calculation provided for a specific zoning district that it has to be met. And that's where I'll leave it. Thank you, Chairman.
Mark, you have any comments?
Not at this time.
Any board members?
I just want to follow up on what Mika was saying. I think the impervious coverage ordinance is also to, obviously stormwater is important, but there's also, in Monroe prides itself on being, sort of a more rural community, although it's quickly changing. But there's an open space component and an intensity of the use. And just like you'd have an FAR for the size of your building, your lot coverage also goes to the intensity of your use on the property and how much open space we have left. And it's not just a stormwater on its own. I do think that but let me ask this: what are the square footage differences between a 40,000 square foot coverage and a 44.5? What's the actual square footage that they're over by?
Ask the
Perhaps that will put that.
engineer to
Yeah, perhaps that'll put it into some perspective.
While he does that, I do want to address the intensity issue. With the municipal land use law, the controls we have on intensity for residential use would be density, like the number of dwelling units per acre. That's how we control residential intensity of use. If you wanted to look at structures, building coverage is not really a control of intensity so much as it's a control of how much of the land is being used, and we're below on building coverage. So the only issue here is that they have more patio than grass in their backyard.
Just to answer your question, 4.5% of a 20,000 square foot lot is about 900 square feet.
Can you what was that? Can you use the microphone?
900 square feet.
So they're proposing to be over by 900 square feet.
Correct.
Any other messages? Any other comments from the board?
Vinny, I have a comment. When you drew attention to this picture, right? I don't know which one it is, which is the back of the house. I didn't catch why.
The only reason I had taken that picture when I was out, and I'm not sure it's terribly informative to the board, was to show that when we have the addition on the rear, we're not going further into the rear yard than the neighbor's house is.
But it has nothing to do with the impervious
It
coverage.
has nothing to do
right?
with the
Okay.
impervious coverage.
But will it be
while I was
past,
there, I
I
took
guess,
that
the
picture.
neighbor's house or in line with it?
I think the intent is to be in line with it, but I don't have the neighbor's house on the plan.
Okay. And then back to the fence, sorry. Before we said that it was a mistake by the builder of the fence, correct? But you just said it was a result of a sloping grade of the property and the desire of the applicant for privacy.
Sir, I never testified that it was a builder's mistake.
Okay.
Someone else did, but yes, that's what was said.
So which one is it?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I approached it from a planning perspective. What is the benefit that it gives? Not was it put in by mistake?
No, I didn't ask you that. That was testified before you.
Yes.
But you said result of the sloping grade of the property and desire of the applicant for privacy.
Yes.
Okay. So we have, which one is it?
So I just spoke to the applicant.
Did the applicant want it taller?
No.
Okay.
The
So
builder-
you're incorrect then.
The builder leveled it off on top to compensate for the grade.
But it's not leveled off on top.
It's not.
On top of me.
In the rear it is.
No.
There's places
What's
where it
this
steps
picture right
down.
here? This
Yeah,
is your,
because
this is your evidence, right?
It contours with the slope. The property slopes drastically off to the rear. So if you look at the ones in the rear, they're all leveled, and that's where it's raised up.
Okay, I'm sorry. You say it's leveled there.
Yes,
but you
because the
just
ones
said-
you're looking at are below 6 feet. We didn't say the whole fence was over 6 feet. We said portions of the fence were 7.5 feet. The ones to the rear are at 7.5 feet to compensate for the slope.
What's the side? I thought the side was taller too.
What was the what?
I thought the sides were taller too.
Yes, they come down. The property slopes. It just doesn't drop off.
So how big are the fences on the side?
It starts at 6 feet.
Are they over the variance, or do they require a variance too?
The 6 foot portions? No.
It's not over 6 foot.
Not up by the house.
So generally, the fence slopes from the pool house, the back half of the backyard, down to the end of the property line, in the backyard. That's where it gets higher because the property slopes off like that.
So we're talking about 7.5 feet from grade, and that's what the block
Yes, it
blocks
adds
with to level
adds
it off.
that extra 1.5 feet to the fence. And that's at the very rear where it's the lowest slope.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Danzy?
Yeah, on Exhibit 8-2, There's a note in the center of that drawing that was handed out. Possible removal of 292 square feet of paver area. Possible. Is it removed or is it possible removed?
That's not removed, but if the board feels that it should be removed, the applicant will remove it. That was that extra course that everyone was talking about that was added in at the end of the patio. So I think, Rob, that's the one that's highlighted on yours? Correct.
That's the 292 square feet that was added on top of what was approved as part of the Scrabble plan.
Correct.
So that's an additional row of tile, is that what we're talking
That's
about?
what it turned out to be. The contractor had an additional row, I think, in my estimation, was just kind of square it in.
Any other question, board members? Counsel, you have any other witnesses?
No, that was the last witness.
Good. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard on this application, please come forward. We're going to ask you to grab that microphone. You need to speak into it loud and clearly.
If I could swear you in quickly, if you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
My name is Raj Chulumula, last name Chilumula. So I live at 45 Keswick Circle, which is right next door. And so I've come here to strongly object to this. Construction has been going on for the past 5 years, well before COVID. Something or the other, it looks like a whole dump yard. It used to, right? For 4 years, I've actually put up with it. I've suffered through the endless construction every day. And last year, this proposal was put forth for an extension. And I came here to object. At that time, the application was withdrawn. And I was assured that all the cleanup work could be done. And they were withdrawing the application to further construct. So I went away with the assurance. And yes, the cleanup work was done in the next a month or two. Everything was cleaned up. So finally, the neighborhood, which we all bought into for families to actually enjoy thing and have open spaces within the thing and have lots of greenery. So we have this beautiful circular. All of our backyards face each other, so it's a nice circle, and it used to be a great place for all our kids to play around, etc. And then this construction started, and this monstrosity of a fence, which is not in line with regular fences. It's a bamboo-looking fence, which kind of hits you in the eye and spoils the view. So I've kind of objected to that. But I guess it's the owner's decision what kind of a fence they wanted. But overall, it spoils the family atmosphere. And the construction has been going on for 5 years, as I tell you, right? And now, if this is going on, it's going to exceed. So it's not going to be in line with my property. It's going to go beyond that. And it's going to cause endless construction and headaches to all of us again. There are other neighbors who are on the same thinking as me, and they want to want to object. And if you're given time, they will all come here to object to this.
It's too late for that. You can't speak on their behalf. We can only accept your testimony.
Sure.
As you're here now, they're not here. So
for now, yes. But I would please implore the board that because we bought into a community which has a certain amount of regularity. All the houses are equal in plot sizing. Every one of was built for half-acre lot sizing was approved by the board then. All houses are in the range of 3,500 square footage. So there's a uniformity about this 66 homes that we have in this community. And now one home is going to be totally out of line compared to the rest of the 65 homes. And that's going to cause an eyesore to everything, and it's going to affect the values of every other property surrounding that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard? Seeing there's none, I'm gonna make a motion to close the public portion on this application. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, board members, we have an application in front of us that's here for approval or denial for what's taken place in the yard already and what they're coming in for. Do I have a motion?
I think I'd like to discuss it a little bit, Mr. Chairman, if possible.
Discuss.
I'm not, I mean, the applicant came in with specific requests. The board has the prerogative to grant exactly what they've requested or to grant something slightly different. And I think I do have a problem. I have a problem with the fact that they really came in with a pool knowing that they needed, and they were going to need variances for the addition of the house. And I have a problem when it feels like somebody's trying to get around the ordinance, and that's not sitting well with me.
So can you put that into a motion?
Well, and again, I'm trying to digest it myself, and I know, I heard some of the comments from some of the other board members. I think they might be on the sort of the same wavelength with me, so I wanted to kind of, my thought is, one, on the fence, I think having it be uneven, you need a fence for a pool. I think having it be uneven is probably going to be less attractive, although I think they should have tried to get it to the right height. I don't think changing the fence is going to help the neighborhood at all, because I think having an uneven fence is going to be even less attractive. But as far as the impervious coverage, I really think they need to do something to reduce it. It is one of the largest patios I've ever seen in a backyard. It seems out of keeping with this neighborhood. Adding bedrooms onto a house seems completely reasonable. The problem is that they've already gone over their impervious coverage for this enormous backyard amenity of a deck and a pool house and a pool and all that. So I think something needs to come off of the impervious, something, if it's not off of the house addition, then off of the, the concrete, some of the impervious in the rear yard.
Well, based on our decision, that would be something, I'm gonna refer to Pete, like if we, not that it's happening, if this application is hypothetically rejected, can it be rejected without prejudice, where they can come back if they do?
As long as they substantially change their application.
So on the res judicata?
Yep, exactly.
Well, I guess my feeling is also that the board could suggest, we might approve it with a smaller impervious, give them a number or a guide. I don't think the board can design this for you, is where we get into a weird spot. But certainly they have said, and they've offered that the green outline portion that was not supposed to be originally constructed could be removed. I think at a minimum, I would want to see that happen, and I just want to make sure that, see if any of the other board members can let me know if that's where their feelings are.
Counsel, you were gonna chime in?
I was going to say, and he can correct me, I don't think the application would substantially change enough to get past res judicata.
It depends on what you do.
Yeah,
So, I don't know
just
what.
saying, I mean, just because of the size of this application, I don't think there's enough to make a major deviation and change that. So,
Can this application be carried? Or no?
You can do that, well,
I mean,
you can carry it if the applicant wants to be carried to.
Well, I'm referring to, can it be carried for them to go back before a potential decision is rendered?
Good.
What Kelly's asking us to do is, we're gonna do this on the fly right now. If you tweak this, move that, if that's what the board comes to, and I don't think that's appropriate.
You got to decide whether or not, I mean.
So engineering wise, that's true. I don't think we could tell you that we can remove X right here tonight. Rob's got to go back and kind of figure that all out. But I mean, if we're hearing that the board wants us to get it down as much as possible, I think the applicant would appreciate that feedback from the board and, maybe revise.
Mr. Chair,
Well, the
can I?
292 is right off the bat. I just don't know if that was engineered.
Can I interrupt for a moment? Can I make a motion counter to what was just made by Kelly?
She didn't make.
Well, she didn't make anything, excuse me, she's talking, she had discussion. So I'll make the motion to reject this proposal.
So you're making a motion to deny the application?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
What's that?
Mr. Busman? No? No? Okay. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
So they're voting yes for the
You- If you vote yes, it's yes for a denial. If you vote no, that means you're in favor of approving it. Is that all clear?
It means you're not, well, it means you're not in favor of denying it. It means that you
Correct.
need a motion to approve.
Okay.
Miss-
So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Ms. Carey?
Yes for denial.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Busman?
Yes.
Ms. Caratori?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Jaffe?
Yes.
Chairman LaFata?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Tear it up. Rip it up. Rip it
We're
up.
gonna take a few minute break while you guys get
Rip it up.
situated. Your stenographer gets up here.
Dead, dead.
Board's back in session, please. Next application, BA-5229-22, Central Jersey Storage LLC. Please come forward.
Good evening,
Hey,
Mr.
how are
Chairman,
you, sir?
members of the board professionals, and public. My name is Kenneth Pape. I'm an attorney with Heilbron and Pape, and this evening I have the privilege and the responsibility of representing Central Jersey Storage LLC. Their application is a use variance and site plan application. Before we begin a substantive presentation, if you'd be so kind as to confirm receipt of our notices and confirm the board has jurisdiction.
And Mr. Pape, for the record, I will confirm that I have received and reviewed the affidavits of mailing and publication, and the board does have jurisdiction to hear this application.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is a request to construct a self-storage facility on approximately 29 acres on the eastern side of what was the Warren family's mining operation. The western portion of the property has been improved with a solar farm. The solar farm has been operational for a number of years, and this is the remainder of the property. This remainder actually occurred, this was part of, originally this was part of the solar facility that was approved, and then state law reduced the size of solar facilities so that this portion was no longer a solar facility when the project was actually built. We're asking for permission to build self-storage facilities. There's approximately 115,000 square feet of self-storage proposed. That includes a little bit less than 10,000 square feet of a canopy that would be over vehicle storage, people who would store their RVs is accommodated on the site. The presentation will be made by Lorelei Totten, who is a professional engineer responsible for the plans that are before you. After Lorelei Totten, Kamal Sinha will testify. Mr. Sinha is your applicant. He's the contract purchaser for this property. He is in the business of operating self-storage facilities. His current facility is on Route 537 in Millstone, just before the entrance to Great Adventure, and he has been operating that for a number of years. Mr. Sinha will testify. He'll provide operations testimony for the board. Stephen Radosti is the architect. He designed the buildings, and he'll present the buildings to you. Scott Kennel is the traffic expert. He'll take us through the anticipated traffic and parking requirements. And our last witness is Allison Coffin, who's the professional planner who will address the proofs that are required for variance relief. And with your permission, we'll go right to the testimony of Lorelei Totten. Is that acceptable, Mr. Chair?
Before we start her, I'm going to request a copy of the...
Sure. If we are prepared, if acceptable to the board, for the transcript prepared by our court reporter to be your official transcript, and we will at no cost or expense to you provide the transcript to your attorney and to you and your secretary.
Perfect, thank you.
You got it.
Please continue.
Thank you. Ms. Totten, if we could have you sworn, share your credentials on the record, and we'll go to your direct testimony.
If you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Lorelei Totten, Crest Engineering Associates, Inc., Totten, T as in Tom, O-T-T-E-N. And as for my credentials...
You've been here before. We'll accept.
Oh, I don't get to tell you, 47 years since I graduated, 41 years as a
last you
PE.
appeared and so qualified as an expert in the area of professional engineering, have your credentials been detrimentally affected at all?
They have not. In fact, I just renewed my license.
Perfect.
Lorelei and I graduated from the same school 1 year apart. You can figure out which one of us is older. Lorelei, I'm going to ask, before you go into your testimony, if you could identify the exhibits that you intend to rely upon during your presentation so that they can be marked into evidence.
Yes. Exhibit number 1 is called Aerial Display, and it's dated the 24th of April, 2024. What number would you like? 1?
One would be fine.
One, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just put today's date.
Yes, please. Today's the 30th.
Okay. Exhibit number 2 is a subdivision display.
Call that Exhibit A2.
Exhibit number 3 is site improvement display.
That would be A3.
Exhibit number 4 is supplemental auto turn fire truck pumper display.
Be A4.
And exhibit number 5 is emergency vehicle display.
Exhibit A5.
If you're ready, I'm going to ask if you could begin by just very briefly identify the property's location and its zone.
Yes, this is lot 18.01 to be subdivided into 2 lots, 18.03 and 4. And it's, as you can see from this exhibit aerial display, Hoffman Station Road is on the south or the bottom side, and you can see all the lines under the word site. Those are the installed solar panels. And then you can see where the solar panels stop, and that's the remainder of the site that's under consideration tonight, which is a little bit less than 29, it's 26.23 acres actually.
If you could, very briefly, just an executive overview of what this applicant is asking the board to consider this evening.
So looking at Exhibit A2, we show where the subdivision line is, so you can clearly see where the project application is. So it is proposed to construct 10 buildings and 1 canopy building totaling 114,000 square feet of storage with 1,200 square feet of office. It is a self-storage facility including climate-controlled and non-climate controlled storage buildings. And all of the development is confined to uplands. There's no proposed development for disturbance in the floodplains or in the wetland and wetland buffer areas.
If you could very, very briefly just describe existing conditions. We have a solar farm, and on this property, are there any improvements?
There are some stormwater facilities that are constructed on this, 3 basins and some storm sewer piping.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we're not asking this board to approve the subdivision. The subdivision was previously approved. Although it's not perfected, we are working with your professionals to perfect it. That's already in place. The line has already been approved. I'm going to ask if we could go through some of the details of a site plan and some of the details that have been incorporated into your design. And for the boards, I think if we could keep it organized, if you could begin by talking about the grading of the site. Is there substantial grading required for this property to accommodate the self-storage complex?
No, I am now looking at Exhibit A3, and the area in gray with the buildings in orange represent the proposed development. And within those areas, the site is already relatively flat, so there is not a significant amount of grading.
And stormwater management. How will this stormwater management be accomplished? You described 3 existing stormwater facilities, and if you could describe how this project would be handled.
So there are 3 wet basins. You can see one that's kind of L-shaped on the right side of the property. This dark circle in the middle of the 2 pieces of development is also a pond, and then behind it, there's kind of a lowercase B-shaped black area that is another basin. So the stormwater will be collected through existing storm sewer pipes plus some additionally new storm sewer pipes taken to the B-shaped basin, which then outlets into the big circle in the middle of the site, and which is shared storage with the other lower basin through a pipe, and it's finally outletted into a channel that goes down to the Manalapan Brook.
I think that the most important parts of stormwater management for the board and the township are the following. You've reviewed the stormwater recommendations of Mr. Razumowitz and his report.
I did.
And I trust that you will address to Mr. Razumowitz's satisfaction any outstanding drainage comments.
That is correct as well.
And the drainage system that we're discussing is not a burden on the township. It's a privately owned system that is maintained by the property owners at the property owner's expense. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And I think very important, an operations and maintenance manual became an obligation of the state DEP drainage laws a few years ago. There would be an operation and maintenance manual prepared by your office, reviewed and approved by Mr. Razumowitz, recorded as a lien on the property that creates a permanent obligation on the property owner to maintain the systems. All of those are accurate statements?
They are.
So the system is privately owned, privately maintained, in accordance with standards approved by the township, never becomes a burden on the township.
That is correct.
And any open revision requirements of Mr. Razumowitz you will address?
Yes, we will.
I do all of that instead of going into all the details of drainage, which I find painful. If I may, could we go to on-site circulation?
Yes.
I think most important is to identify, know that Mr. Kennel is a traffic expert and he'll take us through in some detail. But if you could confirm that the system of internal roadways was designed with a plan, and what that plan was.
Yes, there is one point of egress off of Hoffman Station Road. There are some 11 parking spaces adjacent to the office part of building, let's see, this is building E, which has the office in it and the conditioned spaces. And then there is a network of roadways in between the other units, which will be further described by Mr. Kennel, but between himself and my office, we have designed this to accommodate emergency vehicles, trucks meaning like pickup trucks and small trucks and cars, as well as box trucks and the types of vehicles that which are expected to access the site.
When the solar facility was approved, there was a circuit around the solar system that came down through this property that was specifically set up so that fire trucks could enter the solar facility, travel across the rear of the property, and exit from the driveway that is shown on this plan. Did you preserve that circulation system?
Yes, we did. As you can see at the southern end of the property, this light-colored line, that is part of it, as well as at the top, there's another area that you can see that is also for traversing, and the existing roadway. So there will be fencing around this project, but there will be gates at the fire access that will have lock boxes on them that will allow the fire equipment to circulate as necessary.
There'll be Knox boxes, which are the Knox box. We're familiar with the Knox box, so that the fire officials will have unfettered access as they do now. You identified that there's 11 parking stalls and they're near the office building?
Yes, there are 11 parking spaces near the office building. Actually, I pointed to the wrong spot before. They're partially in front of the office building and adjacent to the office building before the gate that allows you to enter into the site. One of those is a handicap space, and while not so designated at this point, a second one will be designated for EV use.
So we'll be consistent with the federal ADA regulations and consistent with the state regulations on EV charging stations.
That's correct, and the parking size meets the ordinance.
You take us through the lighting design. I know that most of the lighting is on the buildings. There's very little lighting inside the site. But if you could identify the types of lighting that you used and where the light fixtures are identified.
Yes, the on-building lighting will be described by the architect. There are some 50 of those fixtures. There are 4 pole-mounted fixtures. There's one near the entrance. There's one near the beginning of the parking spaces. There's a third one just before you cross over between the detention basin and the channel, and there's another one at the far side, because these areas the light will not reach by the lights that are on the buildings.
And these will all be on timers, and you'll hear from Mr. Sinha that his facility is not a 24-hour facility. It closes in the evening, and the lights will be set to go off after closure. If we could, the landscaping, I know that the Shade Tree Commission entertained this application. We made a presentation to them. We're most pleased that we received a positive report from them indicating no further requirements are imposed. But if you could describe the existing landscaping along the perimeter, and then the new landscaping near the office building.
Yes, there is a berm along the entire frontage of both the solar and this facility. And it has existing landscaping on it that there was a separate landscaping approved as part of the minor subdivision and amended site plan that went with that minor subdivision. That's been installed. That's existing all now. I can't speak tonight, sorry. Additionally, there's some landscaping located at the entrance around the office area, what you would see when you look into the site. And the remainder of the areas are going to be grassed areas on the site, where they're not wooded already along the perimeter of the site.
The landscaping buffer is in need of attention. The landscaping buffer has some dead material. It has some material that is not growing well. We place on the record that this applicant is prepared to replenish to the satisfaction of the township's engineer and planner, the landscaping in that berm. And the landscaping was approved as part of the solar facility. But the portion that we're talking about this evening will be on this property. And this applicant would be responsible for the bonding of that landscaping replenishment and the maintenance of it. We went to the Environmental Commission, and the Environmental Commission issued a comment letter. I can say that I don't think the Environmental Commission had anything specific that they were looking for in the way of revision, but we acknowledge that they have issued a letter of comments to the board. You have received the planner's report and the engineer's report, and I know that you've had the opportunity to discuss the engineer's report with Mr. Razumowitz. Are you comfortable advising the board that you've made yourself familiar with the requirements of that report and that you can and will address the requirements of that report to the satisfaction of Mr. Razumowitz?
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I have nothing further on direct of Ms. Todd.
Just before you step down, what's that gray shaded area? Is that the overhang? No, not to the right, at the top of the property, with the back entrance. Yep, no, bring your finger down just a little bit. Right there, nope.
No, that
Not the
building,
roadway.
Canopy.
Your canopy.
I'm sorry,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
got it.
Yeah,
That is the 11th structure, which is a canopy, and that is where RVs would be stored, should you approve this application.
One point I did not make, and it's an easy one. You'll see there's no trash enclosure on the site. The industry does not accommodate the tenants disposing of their trash. One of the units will be owned and maintained by the operator, and in one of the storage units, he'll have his trash cans that he uses, but there is no trash available to the tenants. Leases also address that. Otherwise, they'd be full every day.
It's carry in, carry out, like when you go hiking.
Very good.
If your permission, if you wish to examine Ms. Totten at this time, or go to the next witness.
No, we'll
I
go
defer-
to your next witness.
Very fine. Thank you, Ms. Totten. Then I'm going to ask that Mr. Kamal Sinha testify next. Mr. Sinha is your applicant, and this is his industry. And I've asked that he prepare for you a description of how he operates his facility, to focus on his hours and focus on security measures. And I'll tell you, his is a regulated industry. The state of New Jersey has statutory language, lengthy 15 pages of statutory language on how this industry is to be operated. It says what you can store, what you're not allowed to do. Can't live there, can't put animals there. You can't use it for recreation. There's a long list of statutory requirements, all of which Mr. Sinha will acknowledge being familiar with and memorializing in his lease agreements. Mr. Sinha could be sworn.
I can. If you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Sure. Kamal Sinha, Sinha. My address is 5 Palmer Circle, Millstone Township, New Jersey.
Mr. Sinha, I don't offer as an expert. He is your applicant, and I'm going to ask that he share his expertise in this industry, but there isn't a degree in self-storage. I'm going to ask if you could do you own a facility?
Yes, I do.
And where is the facility that you own?
On Millstone on Route 537 near Great Adventure.
And how long has that facility been in operation?
December 2019.
So you've been in operation going on 5 years.
Correct.
And is the facility that you're proposing on this property similar in function to the one that's on that property?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to ask if you could, in a narrative fashion, if you could describe your operation. The board would be interested in hours of operation, numbers of employees, and very much on the safety and security measures that you would impose on the operation.
Sure. So we would staff, I say 1.5 to 2 employees. It's probably a full-time employee and a part-time employee, up to 2 employees typically. Our office hours are typically from like 9 to 6, Monday through Saturday. Sunday, we tend to shorten our hours a bit. The gate hours for the customers, so this is when the customers can access the stuff in the units. We do not want it to be 24/7. We think that invites issues that I don't think any of us want to deal with. So what we like to do is we like to keep it from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that would be Monday through Sunday. And in order to access the facility, the customers will receive a code which they will allow to push into the gate, and that will allow them through the gate where they can go access their particular unit.
Let me ask a question there. I show up at 10:30, I punch in the code. Is the gate opening?
No, it's not opening.
So the gate, that PIN number only operates the gate from 6 a.m. to 10.
That's correct.
And your staff is physically there those office hours at 9 to 6 and a shorter hour on Sunday.
That's right.
If you could describe the security measures that you incorporate into your operation.
Yeah. So, as Ms. Totten has explained, it is kind of fenced around. So that's one step of security that we have. Sometimes the buildings act as a fence. Sometimes there's actually a physical fence. We will have lots of cameras placed in around the facility. So that'll be some inside the buildings. Some will be outside the building. They'll be very obvious. Some of them will be obvious. Some of them won't be as obvious. Those cameras can be monitored in the office. We'll have a few screens in the office for our employees to look at and constantly monitor during the day. We also have off hours access with today's technology. Employees will be able to view things on their phone, and we will also have a call center in place in case there's a tenant does have an issue. They'll be able to call this call center. That call center can provide assistance, whether that's helping them open the gate or whether that's notifying us of any issues so we can go address it. We also, one of the key things that we do every day is we make sure that in the beginning of the day, we do what we call a walkthrough of the facility, where the employee walks the entire facility, takes any notes of anything that are noteworthy, and then goes ahead and, if required, we'll write up anything that requires address any issues, and same thing in the evening. So we're very aware of what's going on the property. We also get daily reports that tell us who's been in the property and who's leaving the property, so we can get to see some trends. So for example, if we see somebody always showing up at 9 p.m. and that seems to be a habit, we start to wonder what's happening here, and we'll address that with the tenant.
You heard me describe there's a statute in place. It's the self-storage industry statute. There's a statute in place, and it has considerable prohibitions. So I indicated there's no residential use that's permitted, no occupancy permitted, no animals permitted, no hazardous materials, and they're all defined. Do you memorialize all of this in your written lease agreement?
That's right. So the lease is very specific of what is allowed and what is not allowed. When a customer does sign a lease, our employees walk them through the key elements of that lease and remind them. We also post signs throughout the facility to remind them of what is allowed and what is not allowed, just to ensure that.
Do you steps that are taken to make sure that these units are used for storage? If I rented a unit from you and I opened the door, is there a light inside the storage facility?
No, there's no light. There's no electricity with any of the units.
There's no plumbing either, correct?
No.
So
No.
it's the door opens. There's a space for me to use for storage.
Correct. Period. Right. Not for assembling, not for working on your motorcycle. It's mainly just for storage.
And this operation that you're describing is the operation that you've followed for the past 5 years at your facility.
That's correct.
Safe to say successfully?
Yes, we've had minimal issues throughout the years. So,
trash. You heard me describe trash. You're the operator. Describe how trash is handled.
Right. So, as you mentioned before, we have a dedicated unit where we put a trash bin in. We have a service that will come once a week and they will pick up and empty the trash. It's really only for primarily our office trash, or for example, when we're walking through the property, if we see somebody's left some trash, we will then pick that up to keep the facility clean. But it's not, the only access is to employees.
I use my PIN. To get in, but I don't go to my unit. I go to somebody else's unit. How do you handle that?
Well, so one, every unit has a very specific lock. These are what we call disc locks. Disc locks are a little bit better than your typical lock where you can use a bolt cutter. So a disc lock, one, is our first kind of line of protection. The other thing, for example, is if in that scenario you have access to a climate control building, you only have access to that climate control building. Any other climate control buildings, for example, you will not have access to. So we know that if you only have a unit in building E, you're only going to building A. You're not allowed to get access anywhere else.
So you control access to the individual unit. Do you observe to see that someone's car is parked in front of a unit that's not theirs?
Certainly, our employees are trained to kind of look, watch the cameras, and the truth is, it's not a lot of traffic, so our employees get to know the customers very well, and they kind of know who's coming in and out, and they know, okay, that's Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Johnson always comes in at this time. So we get a sense of it, and they're encouraged to go and walk and meet the customers as well.
Is there anything further about the operation that you'd want to share with the board?
No, nothing else, Ken. I think that covers it pretty well.
If I turn to the board at this time, if my direct examine of Mr. Sinha concludes, if there's any questions of Mr. Sinha now or later in the evening, he certainly is available. This is his industry.
We'll reserve our questions for later. Please proceed.
Okay. With permission, then we'll go to the next witness. Very fine. Thank you. Mr. Radasti, if you would join us. Thank you, Mr. Sinha. So if Steve Radasti is the architect, he's also the architect who designed the facility that Mr. Sinha operates, as well as a number of other facilities that we've presented around the state. You could stand to be sworn, and then we'll share your credentials.
If you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
So it's Stephen Radasti, Stephen with a PH, Radasti, Radosti, and it's Perez and Radasti Associates, 379 Princeton Heightstown Road, Cranberry, New Jersey, 08512.
Mr. Radasti, take just a few moments, if you would, to share your education and professional background with the board and the public.
Certainly. So I graduated from New Jersey Institute of Technology with a Bachelor of Architecture degree in 1992. I became a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey in 1996. I've designed probably over 1,000 buildings throughout the state of New Jersey over the last 30 years. I've presented in front of dozens of boards in New Jersey, and I have presented in front of the Planning Board of Monroe Township multiple times.
Council will accept this.
Thank you. Please share with us, your licensure is in full force and effect and good standing on this date.
That is correct.
Thank you. If you could describe the buildings that you have created for the site, and I think the most important thing to share is the aesthetic appearance of these buildings on site and from the roadway, if you would.
Sure. So this proposed project consists of 11 new buildings at the site. These buildings will all be one-story, utilized for self-storage, and will be designed of non-combustible steel construction. The main building, Building E, will include the office for the self-storage facility, as well as conditioned storage space. The front corner of this building, facing the street, would be used as a staff's office area for the facility. Since this is the building that new customers would need to approach first and is visible from the street, we added architectural embellishments to the facades. We raised the roof area of this portion of the building to draw attention to it and added several large windows so that employees can see any vehicles coming and going. The front section of the building is visible from the street, would have a faux stone water table, a combination of metal and stucco siding, as well as a red-colored standing seam metal roof. The roof, windows, and other architectural treatments visible at the front, at the south elevation, would wrap around to the west side of the building where the front entrance is. The red roof would provide a protective canopy over the front entrance. The roof, as well as the 16-inch high metal street numerals over the entry door, will let new customers know that this is the main entrance to the office. The remainder of the building facades would also have the same warm colors, tan metal siding, as well as the red-colored standing seam metal roofs. Inside Building E, at the southwest corner, would be a 1,200 square foot office area with an open area with front desk and some shelving for packing tape boxes and other moving type supplies. There'd also be a toilet room, staff break room, private office, and mechanical space. The remainder of the building would be used for heated and air-conditioned self-storage units. There'd be two main corridors inside the storage section that would lead to these units. Each space would have partial height metal frame walls, about 8 feet tall, and would include a roll-up metal door that can be locked. The corridors would be heated and air-conditioned and would include lighting. The lighting would be LED and would be turned on by motion sensors throughout the corridors. The other 10 buildings would be designed in a similar manner, but will vary slightly. Other than Building E, where the office is located, there'll be two additional one-story conditioned buildings. These are buildings F and K. The remainder of the buildings would all be unconditioned. These buildings will have different combinations of similar storage units. However, at these buildings, the storage units will be accessed from the exterior overhead roll-up doors instead of interior corridors, so there'd be no corridors in those buildings. The only exception to this is Building J, which would not have any doors. This structure would be used for the vehicle storage. It would consist of a 40-foot by 240-foot pitched standing seam metal roof supported by steel columns. The intent of this building is to act as a protective canopy for vehicles such as RVs that can be parked under the roof structure. All the buildings would have a similar look and the same materials as the main Building E. They'd have tan-colored metal siding, red standing seam metal roofs, and red overhead doors. The three buildings that are conditioned will have ground-mounted HVAC units located adjacent to the buildings. All of the buildings will be designed so they're solar-ready, so solar panels could be installed on the roofs in the future. The buildings will have wall-mounted LED light fixtures at the building facades. These fixtures will not be mounted higher than the highest portion of each building. Building E will have a wall-mounted sign facing the street. It'll be 30 inches high by 6 feet long, and it'll be 15 square feet in area. It would be lit by gooseneck LED lighting. And in addition to the wall-mounted sign, we're also proposing a monument sign. The monument sign would be 10 feet wide and 8 feet high for a total of 80 square feet. This sign would be constructed to match the look of the buildings with a faux stone water table, a stucco, and a metal roof in the same colors as the other buildings. The center of the sign would include 2 internally illuminated sign boxes. Each box would be 2 feet high by 6 feet long for 12 square feet total, or 12 square feet each for 24 square feet total. The top sign box would be conventionally internally illuminated LED sign, while the bottom sign box would also be LED. However, this would be a digital sign where the message can be customized. This sign will be static in nature and will not include flashing or moving text or graphics. The brightness of this sign will be dimmable, so the sign can comply with section 108-10.1 E2C sign illumination. Please note that this code section does not specifically include LED signs, only incandescent and fluorescent, but will match the same illumination level in this ordinance section for the lower illumination areas. In addition to the LED signs at the monument sign, there would also be 8-inch high non-illuminated address numerals in the upper corner of the sign.
You indicated that the building would be solar ready. Would you explain to the board what you as an architect do to make certain that a building is solar ready?
So, the solar panels won't necessarily be installed at the start of the project, but we reinforce the roof structure to add an additional 5 to 7 pounds per square foot so that in the future, if they want to, we could add solar panels.
During your testimony, you very succinctly described the buildings. There's an exhibit that the board is observing as you were testifying. If you could approach the exhibit with maybe that microphone over there will let you travel. If you could approach that, I think we should ask you to identify it and mark it into evidence so that we have a permanent visual memory of your presentation.
I think we got up to A6.
So if you read into the title block, in today's date, April 30th, this is A6.
So this is A6, which is sheet AE, which is actually the same exact drawings that were originally submitted. They have the same date. The only difference is that we've added color to the facades.
If you could, with that in front of the board, if you could point to the building where you have lifted the roof to draw attention to the importance of that building.
So in this corner of the building, we've raised the roof up in order to draw attention to where the office would be. We want people to know, which one is the office. So we made it taller than the other buildings. We also have the sign facing the street. And we added a large amount of glass here, one for aesthetic reasons, but 2 also functional reasons so that the employees inside could watch cars come and go so they're aware of what vehicles are at the site.
You also, on this exhibit, there is the monument sign. If you could draw that monument sign to the board's attention to it, and you indicated the same color, same materials are being used on the monument as the building.
That is correct. It has the same water table, has stucco sides that match what we have here on the main entrance of the building, the signage in the center, and then we also have standing seam metal roofing so that the sign complements the buildings.
The lighting that you described as being attached to the buildings, if you could just confirm all of those light fixtures are lower than the building so that there's no light that is leaving the site.
Yes, that is correct. None of the lights will be taller than the roofs of the building.
And motion activated, so there's no illumination unless there's someone moving along the pathway.
That is correct.
Mr. Chair, I have nothing further of Mr. Radasti. He is available to your professionals on the board at this time or later.
We'll continue with your testimony, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're up to Mr. Scott Kennel. Mr. Scott Kennel is our traffic expert. Mr. Kennel, think has testified before this board before, but we'll.
A few times.
Oh, he has. If you could raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Yes, it is Scott Kennel, Kennel, with McDonough and Ray Associates, located at 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan. I've appeared before this board on a number of occasions. I'm a principal with McDonough and Ray Associates with over 35 years of traffic and transportation planning. Thank you.
Credentials are accepted, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. So I think a solar facility is probably just about the only commercial facility that generates less traffic than a self-storage. I'm going to ask if you could begin by characterizing the traffic associated with self-storage, if you could confirm the adequacy of the parking as designed, and most important, I'm going to ask that you rely upon the circulation plans that Lorelei marked into evidence to confirm that this site will function safely.
All right, let me begin with as far as traffic projections. Traffic projections for a self-storage facility is based on the overall gross floor area. And consulting with the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual, we estimated that during the morning peak street hour, again, it's a 60-minute period, there would be approximately 11 trips to and from this site, and in the afternoon, approximately 17 trips. On a 24-hour basis, we're looking at 150 to 160 trips. Again, that's in and out, so number of vehicles is 75 to 80 vehicles over what we're saying from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it's a very low traffic generator. And based on the traffic volumes that exist on Hoffman Stations Road, our traffic report from November 6, 2022 indicated that the driveway would operate at great levels of service, and that driveway is in place today. And the other thing that's important with the driveway, and I'll speak to this right now, is the location. The location of the driveway provides great sight distance, where we have a 50-mile-an-hour roadway where we need sight distance of a minimum of 500 feet. We have an excess of 500 feet east and west on the side driveway. So from that perspective, the driveway is designed, in my opinion, to be safe and efficient. It's also been designed to accommodate the type of vehicles that will service this site, whether it's box trucks or larger pickup trucks that will be used to access the storage units. As far as the site itself, the site has been designed to provide 30-foot wide circulation aisles. This is a design that exceeds my experience on many other developments, where generally they have a 24-foot two-way aisle between buildings. This site has been designed to provide 30-foot aisles so that you provide an efficient circulation pattern and efficiency in vehicle movements. And as the exhibit that Lorelei is adjacent to, and I don't know which exhibit that, A4, it shows that large wheelbase vehicles can comfortably circulate through the site, enter and exit without any issues. As far as the parking is concerned, we're providing 11 parking spaces. Typically for a facility of this size, anywhere from 5 to 6 parking spaces is adequate. And again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that the renters are going to the storage units themselves, individual storage units, to access the storage unit to either drop off or remove items from that storage unit. So the 11 parking spaces provided is more than adequate to support the projected demand for this type of use and the size, given the size of the use.
If you could, the
Mr. Pate,
vehicle.
1 second, I'm sorry. Can you get that microphone a little bit closer to you, please?
Sure. The vehicle that is shown on A4, Lorelei, could you confirm what that vehicle is?
It is a Hummer Seagrave Marauder.
So it's the Monroe Township's fire truck. That's what was used to create the circulation plan.
Does the first portion of the property have the same 30-foot roadways?
That's correct.
Okay. Because that's showing the back half.
Right, the entire site is set up with 30-foot aisles
Very good.
throughout the site, whether it's on the southerly or northerly sections.
And if the board can take notice of the parking is when someone chooses to go to the office, they don't have to park when they're going to their unit. And with online registration, the number of people who stop at the office is becoming less and less. The paperwork is all being done electronically. The awarding of the PIN is being done electronically. The signing of the leases is done electronically, not exclusively, but more and more. So we remain comfortable that the 11 parking stalls that are shown are adequate. I have nothing further of Mr. Kennel on direct. And with your permission, Mr. Chair, I have one last witness. That's Ms. Coffin.
Bring her forward.
Thank you, Mr. Kennel.
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Coffin, since you appeared and qualified as an expert in the area of professional planning several hours ago, have your credentials been detrimentally affected?
No, just my self-esteem.
Well played.
We accept your credentials. Continue.
I don't have a follow-up line. That was a good line. That was a good line. Allison, if you could identify what your responsibility is, please identify what you did to be prepared this evening. And then if you would identify what proofs this board must hear to support what we're asking of them, and then take us through the proofs based on the facts as you've heard them this evening and the law as you know.
Sure.
Thank you.
To prepare for this application tonight, I looked at the plans, I read the professional reviews. I did go tour the other site in Millstone, and it was squeaky clean. I actually testified previously on this site a great many years ago, so I have a great familiarity with it. I looked at the zoning ordinance and the master plan. What we have here is a site that historically contained a mining operation, and a couple of years ago, the western portion of the mine was redeveloped with that large solar farm, and leaving only this eastern parcel, which is subject to this application. This lot, block 49, lot 18.04, once that subdivision is perfected, will contain 26.29 acres, and that is the area of the parcel that the applicant is requesting a use variance for. The applicant is here requesting the board's approval to develop this portion of the site, this new lot, with a self-storage use that has 10 self-storage buildings with a total of 104,400 square feet of floor area and one 9,600 square foot canopied vehicle storage area. So it's a total of 11 structures. 9 of the buildings contain self-storage units, which are accessible only from the exterior. And the 10th, that building E that we've heard so much about, has interior access units as well as the office space at the front. This use is serviced by 11 formal parking spaces up front near that office, and it has a site plan that includes lighting, landscaping, security fencing, a gate, signage, and one freestanding sign, which is one freestanding sign, one building mounted sign, and an address sign. The site, however, is located in the R60 zone, and self-storage is not a permitted use in this zone, so the applicant is requesting a D1 variance. There's also some bulk variance relief that's associated with this application. Signage. No signage is permitted in the R60 zone for a commercial use, so variance release is required, although this could be considered subsumed within that use variance. Additionally, part of the sign is digital, which is identified in the ordinance not as a permitted type of sign, so variance relief is requested for that. There is a parking variance for parking within the front yard. No parking in the front yard is permitted, and 6 of those parking spaces do extend in front of the building, so they're in the technical front yard, but they're outside both the required front yard and the front yard buffer. And there's a variance for distance between parking and building where 30 feet is required, and those parking spaces come to within 16 feet of building E, just at that front corner. There's also a technical variance required for a loading space where 1 is required, and there's 0 formal loading spaces on this site because that is simply not the way a self-storage use functions. So for the criteria for granting these variances, it is my opinion that special reasons do exist for the granting of the requested use variance, and that this site is particularly suited to the proposed use, and there is no significant detriment to the zone plan or the surrounding properties that would result from the granting of this variance. So looking at the special reasons concept for a D1 variance for the self-storage use on this site, this subject site is exceptionally large for the zone overall. It has more than 19 times the minimum required for the zone. It's extremely deep. It has some environmentally sensitive areas and existing basins which would influence the design of any use on this site. It's adjacent a large solar farm, and it is separated from other developed residential areas by both Manalapan Brook and significant areas of undeveloped woodlands to the east and north of the area of development. The proposed self-storage use is ideal for this unique site. The use is quiet, it has extremely low traffic volumes. The shape and depth of the site and the usable area of the site allows for buildings to be placed throughout, which, when combined with the landscape buffer along the frontage, will effectively conceal most of this use from public view, and the quiet nature of the site activity will limit impact on Manalapan Brook and the environmentally sensitive areas to the east. Therefore, the proposed self-storage use on this site makes effective and appropriate use of the property, and in so doing, this variance advances the purposes of the municipal land use law with providing for an appropriate space in appropriate location for this type of commercial use. It's my opinion that there's no detriment that results from the use variance request. The use does not generate significant traffic, noise, odor, or pollution. The site is large and deep, and the use can be screened from public view given the unique shape of the property. Manalapan Brook and its associated wetlands and woodlands separate and screen this use from the existing residential areas to the east. And the lot to the west contains a solar farm, which is not going to be harmed in any way from this proposed use. There's also some bulk variance relief, and it's my opinion that these variances can be granted without detriment. One of the variances is directly related to the application of residential zoning standards to a non-residential use, and so I would think that this variance would be subsumed within the use variance, and that is for having signage where none is permitted in a residential zone. It was, however, designed to be conforming in terms of size and setbacks where such signs are permitted, and they are appropriate for this type of use. The remaining variances are appropriate for this use in the context of the proposed site plan. The parking that's proposed is appropriately scaled to the use, as is the lack of a formal loading zone. The parking that's located within the front yard is a technical variance. These spaces are outside of the required front yard, but between the building and the street. They are just outside the fence, but they don't create a visual imposition to the roadway. They're behind the buffering and screening. The parking proximity to the structure variance relief that's requested is limited. The formal parking has only a few spaces within 30 feet of the structure at the front corner, and the rest of the structure is easily accessible to emergency vehicles. The other buildings have no formal parking, and under normal operation, there would be very few customers parked in front of their storage units at any one time, ensuring there will be ample access for emergency vehicles to those structures as well. And the digital sign that's proposed is small and appropriate for the use. Therefore, the bulk variances can be granted under the C2 standard. The variances allow for the site to be developed in a manner which advances the purposes of the municipal land use law with regard to providing adequate light, air, and open space, providing for sufficient space for a commercial use in an appropriate location, and providing a desirable visual environment. The benefits of these variances outweigh the detriment. The benefits include permitting the applicant to have an appropriate development of the site, and it's my opinion that there's no significant detriments that result from the bulk variances. These variances overall will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of your master plan and development ordinance. The site is unique and distinct from the remainder of the R60 zone. The proposed use is uniquely suited to this property. The development of the site with a self-storage facility is an appropriate use and advances the master plan goal to achieve a balance of land uses types that maintains and enhances the quality of life to the township. The master plan re-examination report also listed some more specific goals for residential zones in the township, which are advanced by this application, including avoiding conflicting land uses and create buffers between residential and non-residential uses. The subject site abuts a large solar farm and is isolated from other residential areas by the brook and large areas of woodlands. The development of this parcel, as proposed, enhances the buffer between the solar farm and residential uses to the east. Another goal was to continue and augment land use policies that reduce residential densities in appropriate areas and preserve open space, farmland, and critical environmental features. The proposed use reduces potential residential density for this area and protects critical environmental features in and around the site. And future residential and non-residential growth should be planned to preserve environmentally sensitive areas, create open space, and preserve rural suburban amenities to the community. The proposed use and site plan preserve environmentally sensitive areas, but also self-storage is a use often used by residents when they downsize from larger family homes to smaller retirement community housing. And it is therefore the type of suburban amenity which would support the residents of Monroe. And for those reasons, it's my opinion that special reasons do exist for the granting of the use variance, as well as positive reasons for the bulk variances, but these variances can be granted without detriment to the health, safety, and general welfare of your public, and they would not substantially impair the master plan and the zoning ordinance for this property.
I usually have no questions after Allison's testimony concludes. I do have a couple of questions. I just want to ask Allison to help me make a point. This bulk variance relief, we're asking for signage in a residential zone.
Yes.
Any signage would require bulk variance. I think it's really important though to focus on building coverage and impervious coverage, measures of intensity of use. Building coverage permitted in this zone is 20%, and we're at 10.1%.
Yes.
Would you comment on the intensity of the use as determined by building coverage?
I would say that we are at half the building coverage that would otherwise be allowed for this property.
And similarly, impervious coverage, you're allowed 30% in the zone, and we're at 22%.
Yes,
So similarly, the intensity of use is less than what the ordinance
I would say, yes, the building coverage is way lower, or the impervious coverage is way lower than the ordinance intends.
And you did identify that we're 19 times the size of the zone requirements. And one last one, building height in this zone is permitted to be 35 feet. The tallest element of our buildings is the feature that Mr. Radasti described, and that's at 24 feet. So draw a conclusion, heights of the building, intensity of the use. Does that support the conclusion that you've reached?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I have nothing further, Ms. Coffin. That concludes your applicant's direct presentation. If I could impose, if we could have a 3-minute recess, and then bring them right back, and they're all yours. 3.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It'll be very brief. We just.
Don't move. Question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pape, I'm just going to start asking my questions and you can decide who is the best expert to answer those questions.
Surely.
I believe the testimony from the applicant was it's a regulated business and they do supply the list of materials that can be stored in this facility. Would the applicant be amenable to providing that list on record to the planning division should the board look at this approvingly?
The answer is yes, and I can tell you on behalf of the applicant, we'll submit to you his written lease agreement. It's been created, and I'll submit with that the statute. Together, they list all of the exclusions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The other question to that same vein is, do you have a restriction on what type of vehicles the tenants can bring into the property? Or is there no restriction? Just want to clarify that.
For storage or for?
For bringing their materials or anything, like is there a limit on what type of vehicles? Like can they bring in, and I know that's possible, not possible, but can they bring an 18-wheeler too? Okay.
You're gonna need to put that mic on and just repeat that, please.
We would not allow 18 wheelers into the facility.
So the maximum probably a box truck they can bring to unload their items and what have you. Thank you. In terms of building height, and thank you, Mr. Pape, for clarifying that, but one thing I do want to clarify is the canopy structure height from Mr. Radasti, because I thought I heard 40 feet, but I just want to clarify what's the height of that structure.
If Mr. Radasti could testify that overall height of the canopy at its highest point.
So you're talking about the vehicle canopy?
Yeah, the building or the structure J.
So the elevations of that building haven't actually been designed yet, but typically an RV is about, I've designed RV centers. I designed the one in Millstone, typically about 14 feet to the top of the RV, but then there's some structure and a pitched roof. It's a single pitched roof and it'll pitch to the back, so it'll be higher in the front. So I would think probably 20 or so feet, but it would be smaller than the front building.
Okay.
Which is 24 feet.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that as to whether it would be complying with the zone height limitation of that area.
Yeah.
The second question I have is, I believe the testimony was given that one of the signs, the freestanding sign does have digital. And I believe the testimony was, yes, it's a digital, but it's going to be a static sign. Could you clarify what that means? Like, just for our purposes, because as you very well put, the ordinance does prohibit any kind of flashing and digital signs. So I think for board and the public purposes, just clarify what you mean by static.
Sure. So for static sign, meaning that the text won't be moving, it won't be flashing. Whatever text is programmed into it, text or graphics, it would stay that until the next programming. So it's not, once something's programmed in there, that's what you'll see until the next time he decides to change what the image is. So it's not going to be something that's moving, rotating, flashing, anything like that.
So is it going to be a monthly, like you're providing monthly specials for your space? Is that something like that?
That's whether it's monthly, whether it's weekly or monthly. It's a message that it might say first month free, but it's a static message.
Okay, thank you. The other question is, I believe the 3 buildings that are going to be climate controlled, where would the mechanicals of that be stored? Like, is it on the roof? Because we don't have a roof plan. Or
So the mechanicals for those 3 buildings would be on the ground.
Okay.
And it would be adjacent to the building. And I believe there's some locations shown on the site plans. But they would be on the ground adjacent to the buildings, mounted on a concrete pad.
Should the board look at this favorably, can that be provided on the site plan and just made sure it's not visible from the street frontage?
Yes.
or some kind of buffering is provided around it.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Under the canopy, how many, according to the way it's designed, how many RVs can fit into there?
Uh, 12. So there's 12 individual bays. And there'll be columns between some or all of the bays, which are separating the bays.
Okay. Now I have some site planning questions. This is related to the fence height. I know the entire site is surrounded by the fence. Am I correct? And would you know, like, is it 6 feet? I know some of it is above the retaining or Jareth wall. So the entire fence height is
6 feet.
Okay.
The detail, you noted that the detail said 4. My apologies.
Okay.
There's some existing fence around the back, around the brook side of the property that'll be tied into, and there's proposed fencing in between like along the back of the parking areas, and it's connected into the building as was previously indicated. And the purpose is to keep people in the area they're supposed to be.
Okay. Perfect. And this way it also blocks off their access to the stormwater basins that are going to remain on the property,
Correct.
right? Okay. And having said that, I know there were some stone structures existing on that property, and the testimony is that's going to be removed. However, the basin is going to remain as is. Is that correct?
The detention basins will remain as is. And yes, the stone structures, which are a little bit bigger in the northern one and about the same size in the southern one, they will be removed for construction of those buildings, and any area not covered as shown on that exhibit will be grassed.
If I may, there's stone that was put down during the construction of the solar facility. There was stone that was put down for all of the equipment that was used. There was a lot of equipment, a lot of trucks, and that stone there's no purpose for it any longer. So all of that stone's to be removed.
Okay. And is it your testimony that there's no disturbance in what we call the flood hazard area and no wetland permits or anything are needed, right?
Correct.
Okay. In terms of, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think one of the items in our review letter, the planning review letter dated April 23rd, 2023, was to confirm that the impervious and building coverage are based on, I know the subdivision hasn't been perfected, but as testified, the lot line are perfect and are going to remain. So those percentages are based on those numbers, right?
Yes, the entire zoning schedule is based upon just the property to be occupied by this self-storage facility.
Okay, perfect. Last question. And in terms of, we had made some few minor comments regarding lighting and landscaping in our review letter. Would you be agreeable to work with our office and comply with those items?
If I may, from your April 23rd letter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Nothing further, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant has agreed to address my review letter to my satisfaction. We did meet to discuss my review letter earlier in the week. With regard to the fire access, have you met with the fire district yet?
We did a while ago. I mean, this application was filed close to 2 years ago, and there was an early meeting. That's how we got the proper fire vehicle.
So you do have that in my letter to, I think you should meet with them again, just to meet whatever requirements. I know you said you'd have a Knox box at the gates, but whatever they require for that access.
There wasn't a written report generated by them, so we'll meet with them and ask that they generate a report.
Thank you. With regard to the landscaping berm along the entire frontage of the property, you did agree that you would address the dead landscaping along the frontage of this property. However, I would ask, what is the status of addressing the remainder of the property or the adjacent lot? which I believe the owner is the same.
Billy Warren is the owner. He's here with us this evening. He continues to be bonded to the township. He has done replacement. There is dead, dying materials that needs to be replenished. We will agree that it needs to be replenished, and it is his continuing obligation, and the bond's still with the town.
Can we get a time frame, an estimated time frame of when that would be? Because I feel we come to these meetings with new applications, but we talk the same subject.
By the end of June 2024, the contractor to do the work has been retained.
Great, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Any board members?
I wanted to just clarify on the lighting, since this is a residential neighborhood. There's two types of lighting, right? There's the building mounted light and then 3 or 4 pole lights. And you said 5 pole lights. The building mounted lighting is on motion sensors. What about the pole lights?
Pole lights would be on timers. They're on the driveway system at the front. Actually, something we had gone over in some detail with your professionals during the TRCs. Our intention is that they're on the driveways. We close at 10 o'clock at night. No one's allowed on. We could say by 10:30 they're off.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I can jump in on that. Since this is also provides the access for the solar field, if they need to go in there, if they have to go in at night, will the lights automatically come on that driveway?
Mr. Asimov, we don't have it set up. We could. They don't use this driveway at all for anything historically over the last 5 years. They just don't use it. It was required so that there was a horseshoe circulation. Fire vehicles could go in at the far west, come across, come out at the east. Even that hasn't happened. But if it's your request that we have the light poles be motion activated, we could do that.
I would suggest that. Also, if you can review that with the fire as well as police is in my review letter, that they may want a security light or 2 on as well.
The solar is totally dark. Solar's totally dark. There's a light there.
I also wanted to just clarify on the canopy storage for the vehicles, and we're talking about RVs. Is there something in the lease that restricts it to that? I guess my question is, what prevents some kind of contractor from bringing in like heavy equipment and using this as storage for that kind of thing? That's the kind of traffic we don't want.
Recreational vehicles, period. No construction equipment, no boats, no trailers, RVs. RVs. It's an amenity. 12. It's just an amenity. It's a marketing amenity is what it really is.
Thank you.
Good. Mr. Tanzi.
Thank you, Chair. I saw there was water, okay, but I didn't see anything on sewers or anything of that nature. Is it a septic system that's being installed there?
There's one toilet for the office, and it's on septic.
Septic, okay. And my last question is fire protection. Are any of the buildings sprinkled, because of what's being stored in the storage areas, or?
Yes, there would be fire sprinklers.
You got to put that on, please.
I think it's on, yeah. Okay, actually, I want to recant that. The buildings are all under the size that's required to have fire sprinklers. The main building can be divided in half with a firewall, so that the two halves are small enough that it complies with the building code without fire sprinklers. All the buildings are going to be non-combustible.
What about the material that's in the storage areas? Cardboard boxes, papers, files, whatever that's stored in there.
Right. So the code allows buildings of a certain size to be. This would be an S1 use group, which self-storage. This is what we did for his Millstone project, where water wasn't allowed, or excuse me, we didn't have water available there. So the main building was broken up with 2 firewalls there. This one would only require 1 firewall, I believe, in the middle. The other buildings are all small enough in area that that they wouldn't require sprinklers. Only 3 of these buildings are conditioned. So the other buildings, sprinklers probably wouldn't be ideal anyway because they're non-heated. So no.
And what about, detection equipment, smoke detection?
There would be smoke detectors, and there would be carbon monoxide detectors in the 3 conditioned building as required by code.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
To get a better understanding
mic
of
down.
your operation, I'd like to, about how many employees do you envision?
We typically have 1 full-time employee and 1 part-time employee. We may move that to because of the size of the facility. That might be 2 full-time employees.
Okay. Will there be anyone on the premises after 10 o'clock?
No, there won't be anyone on there'll be people on the employees on the premises during the office hours. After the office hours, we have camera systems and we have different things that would trigger alarms that our employees would manage, but there would not be anybody on location during those times.
Thank you.
Lou?
Just some clarifications. The RV parking, is there a power hookup?
No, there's no intention to have any power hookup there or water hookup or any of that.
I was hoping to say that. So, does the lease have a size requirement for the RVs? Like there's some big RVs that are going to hang out over the front of it or something.
No, that's a good question. I think what we would want to do is, after it's designed, make sure it would fit, and then we would put, just so you know, with any vehicles that come on, we usually have a lease addendum, and we're very specific in the lease addendum what's allowed and what's not allowed.
And you said no boats, right?
No boats. No.
No trailers.
No trailers. That was the other one. Operational question. So you said closes at 10, right? Mm-hmm. I come in there at 9:50. How do you get me out? To put it.
I'm going to tell everybody, but usually what we do is we do have a little bit of a leadway. To get in, you wouldn't be able to get in, but to get out, we have a little later of a pass. I mean, just for that reason. But there's what we'll have is numbers posted for the call center, and say you can't get out for whatever reason, your code's not working, something's happening. You call the call center, they will then be able to remotely open the gate or give you a new code that should help that.
So I can't stay there until 3 o'clock in the morning then?
No, we're
loading a truck or something.
And again, there'll be no lights and
no
no
lights.
electricity and it's not a fun place to be.
So if people park near the units, right? Any concern that that's going to cause congestion for the fire to come?
That's why we did the 30.
It's so big because of that? Okay.
Every lane is 30 feet wide.
And so there's 3 signs: address, the static, not static sign. I like how you put that. And then one's on the building. What's on the building? What is on that sign?
2 separate signs. One's real easy. I can do it. Number
of the building.
So fireman sees the numeral. What's the other sign say? The one that's up at the top of the building.
Well, I mean, currently it says sign, but it's going to say the name of its facility. So that is 30 inch by 72 inches, and that'll have name of his business right there at the office, so that you know that this is the office.
Self-storage, okay. And the monument sign has the same thing, but it has the thing.
Correct. The monument sign has the central portion has 2 sign boxes, but it's still technically 1 sign.
That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry?
Thank you. Is the Millstone facility similar size?
The Millstone facility is smaller than this side. We have 60,000 rentable square feet, and we have 6 buildings at that facility.
Okay. You mentioned small issues over the period of last 5 years. Give me an example.
I think the only issue we've really had is, and we're not going to have this on this facility, is we do have a moving truck at that facility, and sometimes people are supposed to return the truck within their period, and sometimes they hold on to it for a day or two, and you have to chase them down to get the trucks. In terms of in the facility, the only time is sometimes somebody leaves and they don't empty their unit properly, and then we have to clean it out. But typically, we've not run into any major issues or any crime or anything related to that. So far, so good.
Any other questions from board members?
I have just a couple of clarifications. One, you mentioned that there was no electric in any of the storage units?
Only in the corridors.
Only in the corridors. And no one could access anything from the outside, like from the HVAC units on the climate-controlled buildings?
Sorry,
they wouldn't be able to access it without you knowing?
No, right. They'd have to be able to go in. They would have a code to go in, so we know. And plus, when you enter a building, we have cameras to see who's coming in and out of a particular building.
Okay, and second thing is, how far from your facility to the nearest potential residence?
So there is a residence. One of the Warren family members resides in the house that's surrounded by the solar farm. That's
No, I mean from your facility to the nearest. Yeah, there you go. How far? Roughly.
So from the driveway to about that, it's about 700 feet from the proposed driveway to the edge of the guy's property, that piece of property there.
My only concern is that future residences, when they get built, if they get built, that they're not affected by anything in your operation.
That 700 feet that was just described is an
that's
environmental corridor that's permanent. That doesn't go away.
That's it. Okay, thank you.
We didn't get it to the public portion yet. Any other board members have any questions? Seeing there's none, I'm going to open to the public now. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard on this applicant, please come forward. There you go. You could stand there. We'll get you sworn in, and then you'll be able to use that microphone.
If you could just raise your right hand for me. Why don't we get our microphone first?
Can she use that?
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear any testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Marilyn Saywitz, S as in Sam, AIEWITZ, 113 Hoffman Road, Monroe Township.
Thanks.
So
you can sit down and relax. It's okay.
it's fine. I know this property is zoned residential, and I think it's like approximately 1 acre zoning right now. I don't know, and I know everybody in the county is very concerned about housing density and all the houses going in. I've been in Monroe for 35 years. I've seen the changes. People need places to live. I get that. But what they're neglecting to show you on this is that's Thompson Park right there, above that, right? And I am in that park multiple times a week in the trails, and you can see the solar farm, and it's fine. It's quiet, right? There's nothing going on there, and it's passive, right? And there was the period when they were building it. I get that. But now you're talking about a storage facility with 75 cars a day going in during the day when it's quiet in a park and you don't have to hear traffic and stuff right now, although you do I walk all the trails, you hear it from some of the areas, right? Because there are roads around the park. And I get that we don't want houses there, but is anybody, and I know it's not the zoning board, but has anybody considered purchasing this property and annexing it to the park? Because we keep talking about open space, but I don't know if anybody's thought about that. bought up properties in other areas and claim that we've annexed them to the park, and I realize it's Middlesex County Park, but has that been considered at all, you know, for making this passive land, open land for this town?
I can share this with you, and I think it's responsive to this comment. When the solar farm came before this board required two things of the property owner. One, the corridor that we just, the 700-foot wide corridor, is in a conservation easement that runs to the township. And they required that bridle paths be built so that people could go through that property walking on our horses, and the bridle path easement through the corridor is in place. So this board did require of this property owner that restriction on that portion of the property previously. It's in place. But no one from the government has come and asked us to sell this property to them.
Okay. You have anything else, ma'am?
No, because they answered a lot of the questions that I had about it. The only other concern I'd have is runoff from stored RVs. You got the Manalapan Brook there, vehicles leak, oil, other fluids, and then you're going to get it into the runoff there. And I'm just like, I understand this is better than the houses people don't want to see. Houses are noisier, probably not great for the park either, but, you know, I would just like people to consider doing something else with this property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. If you could grab that microphone. I'm sure you. Thanks. You swear that any testimony you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
George Kunkelman, 5 Kelly Court, Monroe.
Please spell your last name.
Check the email you sent me this week. The one thing that didn't appear to be addressed, there's limited parking, I think 11 spaces. One of the events that happens at storage facilities is when tenants abandon their property, there are auctions there. The larger the facility, the more auctions there are. Some of the facilities have an auction routinely once a month, and some of them draw large crowds. I didn't hear anything about how that condition was going to be addressed in terms of parking and the other, spin-offs of having a cluster of people coming that want to bid on abandoned units. That would be my only question. The only other thing I would say is there was a question someone brought up just now about nearby residents. There is one unit on the opposite side of the street. I don't know if there's other land on the opposite side of the street that's available for development or not. So that might be a consideration for somebody. But my main question was what seemed to be unaddressed is how these auctions of abandoned units would be handled. And
I got an answer.
I think we're going to get our answer right now.
There is no auctions that will be conducted from this property ever. Except on television shows, the auctioning is now primarily done electronically online. So we will stipulate there will be zero on-premise auctions.
And I think the answer to your other question is the land across the street is all Middlesex County.
Yeah.
Is that the house that's surrounded by all Middlesex County land?
That was our.
Oh, so that land is all Middlesex County surrounding that one house across the street.
All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to be heard? Seeing there's none, I'm going to make a motion to close the public. Do I have a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, board members, we have an application before us. You heard all the details, you heard our professionals, you heard the public.
Any, that's a point of discussion. Because somebody from the public brought up something. For the back end where the vehicles are, how do you mitigate if there's spillage back there or vehicles leaking oil or gasoline?
Every square inch of the storage area is hard surface, and all the hard surfaces are directed into the stormwater control system. The stormwater control system meets all of the standards, including cleansing the water before it's released into the wetlands.
Okay.
And Mr. Osmos is going to make certain that Ms. Totten has all of those elements.
So, is that true?
That's true. So it's just like any other roadway. It goes into a stormwater systems, and any contaminants will settle out, and it'll be somewhat treated before it ends up in the
So
street.
we don't have to worry about it pouring out to the back.
It's all, even though that canopy is in the rear of the property, it's all pitched to their stormwater system.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, board members, we're here. We need to make a decision on this application. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the engineers and planners report and to all the conditions that were agreed to and discussed this evening. I think particularly important, since this is a residential area, is making sure that the traffic and the disturbance, the noise stays limited. So I think has to be definitely a condition, as they agreed to, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Are the only hours of operation, that the lights will be motion, the ones in the building will be on motions and be turned off. I believe there was a recommendation in the planner's report for the pole lights even to be reduced as security lighting in off hours. And I'm sure our board attorney got all these down, so all those.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Busman?
Yes.
Ms. Caratori? Yes. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Jaffe?
Yes.
Chairman LaFata?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, all board members, thank you all, and good night.
Okay, everyone, we have no memorialization.
Sorry.
We're going to go to the public portion. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard on anything pertaining to the zoning board, please come forward. Seeing there's none, I need a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any discussion items? Any correspondences? I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.